Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C, certified brewhead.
And I'm Nathan from NathanDoesBeer.
And welcome to episode 109 of BrewHeads, the podcast Adjunct series. Another episode with Uncle Nate and I. It has been a hot minute, bro, since the last time we just hung out. And
it has been a minute. Yeah, this is my first pod back since my son was born.
Oh, is it really? I thought we might have done one.
It is.
Wow.
Nope. This is it. Because we did that batch of 3 back in March, right before he was born, and I've been hung up doing dad stuff since. So this is my time back on.
Maybe it feels like because we hung out and we went to Badlands, and we could talk about that on here too. And we talk all the time. It kind of just felt like in my mind we'd done a pod back. Okay. Wow. Well, first of all, publicly, so everyone can hear. Everyone, congratulations, bro, on becoming a pups. I got to meet Arnaud maybe a month ago, just after coming back from the old Sankiem Oktoberfest, which perfect, theme to talk about that here, and such a cutie. It's very cool, man.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's I know dad life. How's it been?
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's it's been exciting and tiring and emotionally and physically exhausting, but a whole whirlwind of things. It's in the last 6 months I've felt the biggest emotional highs and lows that I've ever felt in my life. But yeah, he's doing great. He's he's adorable.
He really is
smiling a lot. He's he's making lots of cute faces at us now. So yeah, it's pretty wild. I'm happy. We're all doing well. Everyone's happy and healthy. Can't ask for much more.
That's it, bro. Love it. You're blessed. It's beautiful. It's very, very cool, man. I'm very happy for you, and I love that you sort of you took the time. We planned that out. We made sure we got those 3 bangers in. If people didn't check that out, that was the 3 runner with Willowbold, Binecat, and Badlands, which were just gems of pods. I didn't realize it was March. That's fucking forever ago. And
yeah, man.
Geez, it feels like a long time. So it was good. It was kind of good timing because I just had a bunch booked anyway. And then I think at the end of June, I was like, yeah, I'll be back in like 6 weeks. Like, I think it ended up being a full 3 months, just shy off the pod with the move and everything. So you've had massive changes. I've had insane changes from July 8th to July 30th. I bought a house, got a puppy, and got a car, and had to deal with all of this shit. It was just like the most intense things that I've been through in quite some time as well. Obviously not as life-changing as a child, but a puppy is probably the closest thing to a human, according to my, Chris from Hops and Bros, who's a dog dad and a human dad. He said it's not, I think it's further than maybe he's saying it. It's a fucking lot of work with the puppy, but I don't think it's really on the same level as as a human.
Not quite the same, but it is still a hell of a lot of work, and it is it is an upheaval in your life for sure. But moving, getting a dog, those are some pretty big life changes, in your life too, there, man.
Yeah, it's been a lot. I guess it's kind of almost you could argue it timed kind of well for both of us that we've only been back for the pod for a month, maybe even less. And I've only finally only just now the set is finished. Now I got everything I needed here. So it took forever just to get comfortable.
It's a gorgeous set, by the way.
Thanks, man. It came together beautiful. It's on this camera. If you looked at it on the on the web camera on the computer, it's a lot bluer. So there's LED lights behind the shelves here I put, and that blue that you can see on camera is what this sign is. But here it looks light blue and pink and purple and shit, but it's really electric blue, it's supposed to be the BAOS colors. But yeah, man, it's nice to have a home for everything. We don't have to trip over the the lights, the big studio lights, so we were just tripping over them in the living room for years and years. So it's nice to have a home for it. I feel comfortable. The only thing I don't have down here is a bathroom. That would be amazing if there was a bathroom to just zip it. It's a bit more of a journey now. Maybe I need to have like some speakers or something connected. I heard Joe Rogan has in his bathroom in the podcast studio the speakers that broadcast what's happening on the pod. So if the guest goes for a piss, they can still hear what's being talked about. So I was like, oh, I wonder if there's a way to do something.
Okay.
Like it's kind of clever.
Oh,
a little
geez,
bit.
That's next level.
Right. Well, I guess, when it's like a living, it's probably different than this, but I digress. So, this evening we're doing something fun. We talked about this for a while, and something that you've done on the blog before. You've done pumpkin roundups of pumpkin beers. I think that was, if it wasn't last year, it was the year before, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that would have been.
And
or maybe we're maybe even looking back like 3 years now, I think.
Really?
It's gone back a little bit.
I found it the other day. It was a great piece, and it was like, you just sourced those many different pumpkin beers you could get your hands on, and it's, still in this market between Ontario and Quebec, it's not a ton. And you and I are passionate, not just about pumpkin stuff, because, we talk about that a lot, but we're genuinely, you and me are big crispy boys now, and all things fall, all things Oktoberfest, that's really what this podcast is about tonight. So we've collated some fantastic beers that we both have, all of them of. There's more than we anticipated, but we thought, well, we want to make sure we showcase a bunch of just great breweries doing some fantastic beers and just really get a bit nerdy about the styles and really, I don't know about you, this is my favorite time of year. Like I feel like the weather, the trees, the environment, and the beers, and the food and the fashion to come back into pants and hoodies and stuff again. Like, I love it. Like, how do you feel about this time of year?
Yeah, I'm jazzed about it as well. It is one of my favorite times of year, and as far as beer goes, I think it's probably my favorite beer season. As far as seasonal styles, I think it doesn't get any better. Like the lagers that come out in fall, they're the certain fall styles of lagers, they're just a bit richer, like a bit maltier, a bit more caramelly, they've got a bit more heft to them. It just feels right when the temperature's starting to drop a little bit, when you got a nice cool evening and all that. And the other styles that come out as well. This is the season for fresh hop beers, which is a style that I'm particularly amped about every year. Which we'll end up talking about later. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And then of course the ever controversial pumpkin beer, as you mentioned.
Yes, indeed.
And and all of the different variations on that. So yeah, fall's a great time of year for beer.
Great. I couldn't agree more, bro. It really is. So on that note, let's get started. You came up with a fantastic order for the beers tonight, to make sure that we're sort of switching it up a little bit, keeping it interesting, and sort of separating the pumpkin beers and the sort of lagers, so that we've got this nice little run. I really enjoy what you put together, so thank you for that. This is the first beer is this is the first place we ever met in person. No, it's not. That was when I met Chris and Max.
Yeah, that's when you met Chris and Max. Where we met first was at GDCL.
Quartier de Spectacle. Then we went to GDCL, if I recall correctly.
Right. That's
right. So in Montreal. So I came to the Oktoberfest at St. Kien, which I'd love to just get into a little bit, because it was the first beer event I've been to in a while. It was fantastic. And on the way home the next day, I came by, saw you. We had a little trade going on, and I got to swing by Tooth and Nail, where I haven't actually been back since that time. I think I might have gone once to pick up beer or something, maybe. And they happened to have their anniversary, their 7th anniversary beers, and I specifically went because I wanted the Vim and Vigor anniversary edition, because they do the dry hop, and it's just phenomenal stuff.
Yeah. And
I picked up, we didn't discuss this, but I picked up a bunch of a couple of almost everything they had, including this one, Victory Parade, their Festbier. Was this one of their anniversary beers? It was, right?
No, this was not one
This
of
was
the anniversary beers. This
Okay.
this is just their annual fest beer that they put out every fall.
Okie dokie. So this one is 5.6%. I guess you want to talk about it in a sec after you've poured it up, because I know you did a bit of research on specifically what a Festbier is. And just to give everyone some context, this time of year is, with the lagers, it almost kind of feels like there's like fucking like 15 different types that come out, and they're all almost the same. Or they're all very similar, like you described very well earlier about being a bit more caramel, toffee, warming, in the style. But the nuances of a beer like this, I'm really fascinated to hear, because I actually don't know, and neither of us are crispy experts, as we said off air. We're like, this really isn't our like thing. We do know a lot of other great people who would be better to speak to this, but we're here and we're going to chat about it. So I guess first thing, bro,
That's right.
What is a Festbier? Fuck off, Fly.
All right. So, in very simple terms, a fest beer is the kind of German-style lager brewed specifically for Oktoberfest celebrations, like the official one that takes place in Munich every year.
Okay.
So, in very very simple terms, that's what a fest beer is. That's what it's traditionally made for.
Yes, that makes sense.
Is the official Munich Oktoberfest beer.
Okay. And
so it's it's a crystal clear lager. It's not quite an amber lager.
No.
It's it's like a golden straw in color, and
it's like a little more.
As far like
it's definitely darker than a regular lager, though. Like a Helles or a Pilsner.
It's darker than a regular lager, but it's not quite as dark. But it's not quite as dark as an amber lager.
Correct, 100%. Well, I want to get this in me. Cheers, brother.
Yep,
pleasure.
Let's do it. Cheers.
Get that in you. Glorious. So, this is an interesting beer. This is my first beer of the night. Obviously, I guess neither of us, because we've got so many beers to go through. Pre-drinking was another thing. Sometimes I find they take a little bit of adjusting to the palate. So I'm definitely getting more sweetness immediately than I would on a typical, lager or pilsner, like Helles style or whatever.
Yeah.
Definitely getting a lot of like the grainy sort of caramel malts as you described. It's not over the top. It's definitely not on the level of a dark lager or like an amber lager. Very smooth, little bit of grassy bitterness in there. Do you have any thoughts there? I guess I only had one sip.
Yeah, so I'm definitely getting the sweetness that you mentioned, a lot more than you'd have in, say, a pilsner.
Yes.
So like quite a bit more like caramel or or toffee sweetness that you mentioned, or even like honey a little bit.
That's exactly what it is.
Like honey is actually I think where this one lands, if you're to describe the sweet character of it. A very kind of like biscuity malt malt backbone to it. It's so a little bit more hefty and and comforting than what you might be crushing in the middle of summer, which I think is very appropriate for for this time of year.
Yes.
But even still, not over the top strong either. It's 5.6%, which is a pretty nice place to be.
Like you can feel that extra percent. I feel like the 0.6%, what you would typically get, but it's not unwelcome. I feel like you said, it adds character to the beer, like a bit more depth, a bit more rounded. I noticed, and tell me if you notice this in your, because it could just be my can, I feel like it's not as sharply carbonated as perhaps a Helles or a Pilsner would be.
Yes, I would agree with that. It's got like kind of a softer, smooth carb to it,
Is that a
which
part of the style?
like
Do you think, or
now
is that
that
like Maddie's
that's a level of
approach?
detail. That's a level of detail that I couldn't speak to. That would be a good question for Maddie if that's like if that's kind of something specific that they deliberately tried to do, or if that is really specific to the style. I mean, Maddie tends to go very specific to style. He doesn't tend to go very off book.
No.
Um, so if that's the like if that's the way he did it, I imagine that it's pretty typical to style.
Yes. Okay. That was definitely something I'd like to know more about. I almost feel like it could be due to the ABV. Like you find that I'm only thinking of this now that typically speaking, the sharper carb beers are more times than not lower ABV. Do you think that's an accurate statement, or am I kind of boosting that?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there. Um,
I was just thinking like the sharper carb beer. I'm
can you
thinking of
repeat
like,
that?
of course. So say if I'm thinking sharper carbonated beers are typically lower ABV. So like most lagers, pilsners, and such are hovering around 4.5 to 5% for the most part, maybe 5.2, and they are typically very sharply carbed or relatively sharply carbed. If you think the other beers that are often sharply carbed are barrel aged sours, or a lot of the time they're very rarely high ABV. They're mostly low ABV from my experience. Low, I'd say less than 6. Um, yeah, I don't know if I'm boosting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Um, and like and not even just like just loggers like that, but I would say that's true. Like for some reason, the one that's coming to mind right now is like Cinquième Baron's Two Tails Pills. That's probably the like the pills like the lager from them that I had most recently, and it is certainly more sharply carbed than this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean that's obviously lower in ABV as well. That would be somewhere between 4.5 and 5. Um, Definitely more sharply carbed, and that's certainly true with IPAs as well. If
Yes.
you think of most session IPAs, if they're hovering somewhere between the 3.5 and 4.5 range, they almost always feel more sharply carbed than than standard IPAs, which are hovering more in the like 6.5 to 7% range. So
That's a
yeah,
great
I would
point.
say that's definitely true with
Mm.
like with loggers as well.
I wonder if it's intentional or
And
if
if you
it's
even think,
go.
yeah, that I mean that might just be something that comes that comes along with how that like the malt is fermenting at that like to produce higher alcohol. Maybe it's just naturally affects the carb that way. I'm not sure. That'd be a better question for a brewer.
Yeah.
um, But if you even think of like some higher range um, ABV loggers, like an export lager or like a Maibach or something like that, those are like those are ones that definitely come through with lower carb levels as well. So
Mm.
there must be something to that.
Mm. It's a good question, and to be honest, it's never really come up before that I can recall on the
Yeah.
pod. So I'd definitely love to chat to some crispy brew. Maybe that should be. Do you know who we should get? I know you and me are in the. I don't know if I should say it on air. Maybe we'll say it off air. We talked about him before. There's a crispy boy brewery that I had at St. Kiem's Oktoberfest. I guess I can say it. That Brauwork Hop. What the fuck are they called? I'm sorry. That's German.
Brauer Hoffman. Yeah.
Them had the first beer from them. It was a Märzen. It was fantastic. That was my first beer of the night at Senkiem, and because they had a bunch
Yep.
of guest beers, killer. So I was like, all right, I want to talk to you about doing
I've had that one before as well. Yeah, it's very good.
very impressed. But that could be cool to talk to an essentially exclusively German style crispy brewery because Godspeed isn't exclusively crispies. They do other things. They do more Czech than anything else now. And then you got Silo who do some IPAs and some other stuff as well, who are also more Czech dominated. But I believe it's Brauwork, right?
Yeah, Brauer Hoffman.
Hoffman. Okay, I'm sorry. They sound like they exclusively like they do not do anything but German style lagers.
Yeah.
Is that right? Cool.
And there's another one locally here, like along the same lines, Braumeister, who originally have
Oh,
their space in Carleton Place, and now recently opened up a beer hall in Ottawa as well. And
fun.
they're another exclusively German style crispy brewery.
Bro, we should definitely do both of those. That would be fantastic. I would love that. I feel like me and you are really like,
Yeah.
look, we're Hayes boys. You know, we hung out at Badlands this summer, which we could talk about. It's kind of off topic, but you know, we decided to go there because you're in town, and we're like, yeah, let's finally go there so you can meet Troy and see the place. Obviously, that's our thing. You and me are into everything, I would say. But I feel like we've both got and I could probably speak for all like the Chinwag boys. All of us basically have grown into, except Max, who was always on it, but like grown for this real fondness for crispy boys over the last couple of years. I'm much more passionate about it, and I'm really fascinated to learn more about it because it's the one thing I feel like the one major kind of group of styles that we can't speak to with the same level of confidence as, say, IPAs or something like that. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think that could be
I would agree.
Super fun. So we went to, might as well, this is probably a good time since talking about Tooth and Nail, Ottawa, Gatineau. So Tiff and I, first time back in Quebec since we moved. We hadn't actually met the Sankiem team except Chris in person, which is funny because I'd known Jacob for 2 years since we did the Sankiem pod not long after they opened. Well, I guess 6 months after they opened. And we started Link Up with them, which is our, people who don't know, the non-profit that we run in partnership with Sankiem. So we speak to them, we'd video calls all the time, texting and messaging, and we'd never met them. So it was like strange. So they were kind enough, Jacob, Danielle.
That's wild.
I know, right? I think all you guys had met except, Noah had been there multiple times. You'd been there multiple times, hung out with them, and we had not. So we stayed with them, and they were very kind and put us up in their beautiful home. Very, very kind. It was great because they got a dog and got to meet Barrington. So it was really cute. And they had their Oktoberfest. It was a Friday and Saturday. We went to the Friday because he said they had some French hip hop performances, and the DJ was going to play like reggae and stuff. So it was kind of more our jam than the Saturday, which was kind of more just the folk and rock and stuff. Very, very cool. So they had. We didn't get there during the day. We got there late afternoon. But they had like the brown bag coffee roaster van out front. It was just like pouring. I got some latte the next day and had a chat with them. Fantastic. Had this pulled pork van, which was great. So some solid food. They had this big ass tent out the back, and the where all the performances were. And then they had a bunch of guest taps. Well, sorry, it wasn't taps, cans, because it was sort of their parking lot. So they just had coolers with the cans. And they did have that Märzen from BrewHeads. They had a beer from a Pilsner from Melon. They had...
Okay.
What else they have? Like crispy from Melon. They had... Oh, why am I having a blank? They had some other their cans, like Black, their Schwarzbier, which is phenomenal. They just didn't have that on tap, so they had the cans of that. They had a Buck Canada Pale Ale, I believe. And for some reason, they had Silo, a Keller beer, which was very cool. But it was just really good. They really put together a really solid list of, Oktoberfest style beers for the most part, and just great crispy boys. So I basically went through most of those that night. It was fantastic. I just straight Crispies, of course, had their own beers, their Citadin, their Pilsner, their flagship, their Two Tails Pils, obviously, which is my fave from them, and Des Moines, their Helles. So I was, crushing all of their...
That's a beauty.
Oh, such a beauty, bro. Just beauty beers. I mean, even the Kobe's, if that's... I don't think I'm pronouncing it right, but it's their Kolsch. Was it Cobes?
Yeah.
Or something? It's got the little...
Yeah, I'm not sure what the pronunciation is, but that's a gorgeous beer for sure.
Stunner. It was just it was a really well executed event. Obviously, it was so cool to meet everybody and actually got to kick it. It was not the best time, I guess, because they were all working and running around and being extraordinarily hospitable. They over and above anything we ever needed. And I kind of felt like they're just the kindest people, man. And I felt bad because I didn't want them to fuss over us at all. because they've got a million things to do and, like putting things out whilst trying to enjoy themselves. Like, they're the hosts, right? They're doing some stuff and having a chat to this person and blah, blah, blah. They, having some drinks, getting lit slowly along the way. But it was really cool. We were considered staying the next night, but we had like some friends planned to come up, so we didn't stay on Saturday. But it was really cool, man. It was just nice to see everyone, and we went back during the day on Saturday and had another beer and had some of the pulled pork, and it was just a vibe. It was just like a really nice time. The weather was fantastic for it, like a little nippy as you'd expect, being I think it was late September. It was like 23rd and 24th of September, so it was about a month ago. But yeah, man. Really nice experience, and it was cool to I was very much just looking forward to drinking there. Like you and I both, we love their Crispies. They're just impeccably done. And to just sort of, get to drink it all there, hang out with the team, try a bunch of other well-curated beers, and just really soak up those Oktoberfest vibes. It was money. It was really great. I'm very happy we went.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah, it's fun, dude. It's I haven't been to a beer event, like I said. That was the first one.
Yeah, it's been a minute, eh?
Yeah. It's I couldn't even tell you. The last one. Probably fucking Liquid Arts in 2019. Not that this was a festival. Like, have you been to anything since? Like, I'm talking like I've been to a bunch of tap rooms. Like, you and me went to Badlands. I've been to Fairweather here, Grain and Grit, and a bunch of stuff in Toronto. I think I went to Godspeed at some point, and a few different places, Lost Craft Spot, whatever. But like, they would just go into a brewery with friends or whatever, or going to see the owners, but not an event.
Yeah, and I've done a bunch, I've done a bunch of those too. The only thing that's coming to mind is I went to Senkiem's anniversary this year. Which was great.
In May. Fuck, I have to go next year.
Exactly what you were just describing with with their Oktoberfest. You know what they're like when they put on an event and all of the locals turn up for it.
Yeah.
All of the vendors are usually like places that are just down the road from them because they've got such good relationships with everyone in town. It's everyone shows up for it and everyone is just so happy to be there.
Yeah, man. I definitely got that vibe. There's a real strong community that they've created there that's like something special. They I met the dude from Le Boucheron, the sausage dude, who's done a couple collabs. Like, he was super cool.
Yep, I've met him.
You met him? I don't recall his name, but we recognize each other because I've seen him on all their posts and stuff, and he does some cool shit. And he's actually went through Link Up. He did. We got him Cicerone because he's looking to get into the beer world as well. And
that's great.
These folks that we met, one of them ended up being Steven's cousin. Steven is one of the partners in Saint Kiem, and one of our partners in Link Up. And his cousin and his girlfriend run this company where they make Aylmer, which is where it is. It's Aylmer like clothing, so it's like hyper niche. Where it's like, it's like in New York on a shirt it says Aylmer, and people, like, a lot of locals wearing a lot of like the local. What do you call it? Like Parliament, it's not maybe MPs.
You mean like this right here?
Yeah, basically exactly it. What is that? Oh, that's a Senkiem hoodie. See, that's sexy. I love that. That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Their merch game is so strong. Fuck, it's so strong. I should have bought some when I was there, actually.
It really is.
I forgot.
It really is.
I got beer to go, but I didn't get any merch. I definitely messed up. But you could just tell there's just a lot of like passion and stuff, and it was such a great event, and the weather turned it on for it. It could go either way with this time of year, right? Sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes it's a fucking nightmare. So, yeah, man, great experience, and it was just cool to, like I said, crush up some fire ass Crispies and just really soak up that October. I almost feel like now I've got such a hankering to go to Germany for Oktoberfest, even though I'm not really into the dressing up and the gear and all that stuff. Like, I just kind of want to see what it's like and, drink from the big ass things and,
Yeah, it seems wild.
Ooh. You know what I thought though, man? I've heard that it's like it's not as wild as this because we're a little old. You're dad now. I'm a dog dad. Can you hear me? Because I think you might have frozen there for a sec. Ooh, you there, Nate? I can hear the background. Look at this, guys. Technical difficulties. It's all good. Are you there, bro?
Oh, okay. Now I got you back.
We gotcha. It's okay. Little brief pause. So
I got you back.
I don't think the Oktoberfest is some like wild, like as in like party shit. I think it has been that, and it maybe can be, but it's not all that. Like someone told me, it was like, it's just these beer halls with these long ass tables, and people just sit around and wear the stupid clothes and drink steins and shit. So it's like,
right.
I think it depends where you go. There might be places that are known to be parties. Obviously, I don't know. I'm not super interested in that type of partying. I'm definitely down to get lit and drink the fucking things and have the bratwurst and all that fun stuff. But I'm not trying to wild out. Have you? You've never been?
Yeah, I've never been. No.
No.
I've been to Berlin before, but I've never been to Munich, and and the time that I went there wasn't around Oktoberfest time, anyways.
I've been the exact same. Been to Berlin, but not there. And I went in like 2004, in December. So like I went to the Christmas markets there.
Right.
That was fun, and they had like things where you could buy the cans of Bitburger, and then like a foot long bratwurst and bread type of thing. That was fun. That was just, to me though, that was just some German shit, and I wasn't into craft beer at the time. But man, I'm just so keen now. I just feel like we would just lose it. I feel like there's just be so much that we'd want to soak up and
oh yeah, it'd be wild
and hear about. So yeah, man. So the Festbier then is this style of beer. I'm loving this. It's just going down the treat. This is beautiful. I know we do have to sort of be a little cautious tonight, but I was like, this is the first one that's a short can.
It's hard not to drink the whole thing, right?
For the short, I was sort of planning it ahead because Nate and I were joking earlier. Like I guess you can't really tell on the pods, but I have a little bit of issue with self-control sometimes with the pods. Depending on, the styles that we're drinking, and the ones with Nate earlier this year, I drank all of the beers in its entirety over those podcasts, which didn't turn out to be the wisest moves in hindsight. So I've been trying a little more to, be like, hey, let's, leave, don't have to finish everything and blah, blah, blah. But because tonight we have 5 beers, so we do have to keep it going. But I was thinking like, okay, which ones I'd be willing to leave half.
Speaking of which, we should. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we should probably be moving on to our next one, so that we're not doing this till 1 a.m.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. So this is interesting. This one I haven't had. All right,
I'm gonna go
grab it. Okay.
Grab mine, so I'll be right back.
Easy. So I won't spoil it until Nate comes back, but the beer that I'm just double checking that I have reviewed this fucking thing, because I had this a long time ago. I must have though. I must have done the. There you go. Okay, it's marked off here. We good. When did I have this in? September 2015. Oh, look at that. I ain't fucking around. So we're kind of switching gears a little bit. The reason we're doing this beer, by the way, we had, I was saying we had to come back from Oktoberfest because we had a couple of Tiff's friends want to come over. Just, I'm not a host. That's why I always very much respect people like, Jacob and Danielle and everyone for hosting. It's not innately who I am personally. We never had people really over as a kid, so I'm not really used to all of that. So we had a couple of friends over, and they brought some housewarming gifts, even though they didn't have to, and it wasn't a housewarming. So one of Tiff's good friends was a sweetheart, and she just went to the LCBO and she asked the guy to like, hey, like my friend's boyfriend's into beer, can you help me pick him some stuff? So it was cute that she put together this pack that had it had some dubs, it had some L's, but the thought was what was important to me, and one of the beers that she picked happened to be this one, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, podcast with Nate, perfect. And I haven't had this beer in a long fucking time. I just checked, and I had it in September 2015, the last time that I've had it on Untapped. So I'm actually excited to do it. So we're completely switching gears for a little bit. First of all, we talked about the Oktoberfest beers. This is the beer that we just had, the beer that you have at the festivals. Now we're going into our Team Pumpkin bullshit with Great Lakes Pumpkin Ale.
That's right.
An Ontario classic.
Yes, indeed.
Do you recall? I think I had this.
Yes,
before I checked into it, but that was the last time I had it. I think I had it when it was in bottles, back like when it first came out.
Right. Yeah. I certainly remember when it was in the big 750 ml bottles,
It was just too much.
and that
Fuck.
also with like the embossed printing along the bottles, like it was not
They were
not just
cool,
a typical like wrapped bottle. Like they had it with embossed printing on all of them, which was pretty cool. It was pretty unique. But yes, this right here, Great Lakes Brewing's Pumpkin Ale, I feel pretty confident in saying is the most accessible pumpkin beer in the province.
Easily. I feel like this is the one, if people are
Um,
new to pumpkin, this is one that they'll probably end up having first.
yep, exactly.
And it's a, I'm excited to drink it. I'm just going to take this photo real quick.
Yeah, because
Can you-
I've also not had it for a while.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost a one of those beers that you kind of like take for granted because it's, like you said, it's so accessible that it's like you just sort of like
Exactly.
maybe, like as kind of heavy craft beer nerds tend to do, you kind of like front on the things that aren't hard to get, which is a bit of a thing that we have, but it is what it is. Now, this particular beer, just before we get into it, oh, Ian. Yeah, I get that photo. So this one is it says a beer brewed with pumpkin and spices. It is 5.5%.
Yep.
Pumpkin beers can be essentially anything. You could have pumpkin like any style.
Yeah.
At all. This one, I'm just trying to check because the description they have on Untappd is actually different to what they have on the can. Let's see what it says. An assortment of specialty. It's brewed with an assortment.
So,
do you want to go?
Sorry, I'll let you pull up what it says on.
I'll read the Untappd, and then you go and explain one in a little more. I'll keep it just really quick. Yeah, it says, handcrafted with an assortment of specialty malts and hops, we added a generous amount of pumpkin directly into the brew. Combine this with hints of cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, and allspice. You've got a beer that you won't soon forget. Rich, satisfying, and slightly spicy, our seasonal ale goes perfect with your favorite dessert or traditional feast. So, Nathaniel, get some pumpkin in you.
All right.
Ooh,
cheers, man.
Cheers, brother. Getting those spices on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I was noticing that as I was pouring it, that it was like that. Those spices were really hitting right up front the nose, like the kind of warming, like baking spice, like fall baking spice. Definitely get that, like, and then and the allspice in there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What
do you think is the base for this one? Sorry, I just want to clean my palate a little bit from the last one. What do you reckon? Like, looking at this, it's not an amber.
Yeah, no worries.
It's sort of like it's not clear. Like, it's a little murky. There was like a little foamy head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can pinpoint the.
Yeah. So this, I think. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think that there is like a technical style to put on this one. I mean, it's an ale as they said, but because it kind of defies any kind of conventional style with with the addition of pumpkin and and spices, they've left it just kind of with a generic description, and I don't know that I classify it any further than that myself. From a malt bill perspective, it's saying barley and wheat, and then pumpkin, hops, spices. So yeah, I don't think it really falls into into any category. And to kind of expand on what you were saying earlier, like pumpkin beers are very, very broad. It can be just about it can go in just about any style. Like it can go in kind of just a nondescript ale like this. Like, it's been done in stouts and porters. It's been done in saison. Like even in lagers in some cases, or some really really bizarre sours like the pumpkin pie one that Half Hours did a few years ago.
Yes, and the smoothie from Five Paddles that we had, if you recall.
Yep. Or from Small Pony.
Yes, and Third Moon did
Yeah.
one too.
So yes, that's right. And the other thing too is that there's also kind of like a division between the ones that are actually pumpkin beers and the ones that are pumpkin spice beers, because
Great point.
because there are the ones like this that do actually that are actually brewed with pumpkin, um, and some of the ones that are labeled as pumpkin beers are really just they just have cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves in it, and it's like just kind of calling it like it's actually just a pumpkin spice beer, really.
That's a good point. Like, I think the key is to have actual pumpkin puree in the beer, or it's not a pumpkin beer. That's like a full spice beer, which is
Yeah,
fine.
some of them are labeled as as pumpkin spice beers, and and to be honest, I love those because I love
Fuck yeah.
fall baking spices, and like the example that I'm thinking of, which pumpkin beer of the year for me is
Night.
I'm quite comfortable saying already is Barn Cat's Pumpkin Spice Rat Queen.
I got that in the fridge. I'm so excited for that. And that was
Yeah,
it was barrel aged Rat Queen Imperial Stout with the spices and
Yes.
pumpkin puree.
Not pumpkin puree, just the spices.
Just the spices. So hence pumpkin spice barrel aged Rat Queen.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a very important. Like you
And
said, it's important. They're not trying to put it as a pumpkin beer. They're saying a pumpkin spice beer. Whereas,
they did not call it pumpkin. Yeah, they did not call it pumpkin Rat Queen. They called it pumpkin spice Rat Queen,
right.
which is an important which is an important distinction.
So I'm gonna have that.
And like I love those baking spices in stouts. When it when it's done with just like a nice touch, it adds such a nice comforting warmth to it. Like it just feels like I'm like wrapped in a warm blanket with 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 a fire going and whatnot. Like it just makes me feel cozy.
I love it. I couldn't agree more. You and me are very big proponents via our Team Lactose account that's kind of dormant at this point, but we always talk about pumpkin stuff alongside lactose because we don't really give a fuck about lactose anymore. But I feel like we're pretty keen on pumpkin still, and all things pumpkin spice, even in coffee.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, like like you and I are both admitted basic bitches, and are
Yes,
and are very much down with pumpkin spice lattes. So
we're very proud.
No, like absolutely no shame there.
None.
I want to come to something that we actually mentioned like today or yesterday. I can't remember in the in the group chat, talking about pumpkin beers, because as much as we're very much on team pumpkin, and I roll my eyes at people at people who bitch and moan about about pumpkin beers and share the memes that are like how to enjoy pumpkin beer, pour it down the drain, like all of that fucking bullshit that that comes around every year. Like, get some new shtick, guys. Like it's fucking old.
It's not a personality to hate pumpkin beers, all right? Fucking find another hill to die on, Gary.
Exactly. So like it's fine. Like just fucking calm down. If you don't like them, you don't have to fucking drink them. I don't need to go down that road again.
No.
Anyway, but like what we were talking about today, it's one of those admitted things which we've admitted about lactose in the past too, is that I like the idea of pumpkin beers. There are many pumpkin beers that I like. However, I feel like it's probably true that there are more bad pumpkin beers than good pumpkin beers. Just like I feel like there are probably more bad milkshake IPAs than there are good milkshake IPAs. Like I just like that. That's just the case, It's it's a weird ingredient to brew with,
Yeah.
and it does not always turn out well. And it's one of those things of like as soon as you get enough people doing it, you're gonna get like more bad ones than good ones sometimes.
100%, and they're not easy to make. Like good pumpkin spice or pumpkin beers or lactose beers, it's a delicate ingredient, man. All of this stuff are very delicate. Like lactose is one thing. Pumpkin spices, you've got multiple. The ones I read out before for this was a nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon, allspice. Like you've got to use it in the
Allspice.
right
Yep.
volume, in the right percentages to make sure that one doesn't outshine it. Sometimes gingers are part of that. You know, it's very difficult and it's nuanced, and it depends on what you're
Yep.
doing. So like I would say that it all depends on the base of the beer, right? You mentioned the stout, the Rat Queen, stoked for it. I had the Third Moon bestowed pumpkin pie version on Wednesday. Tiff decided to split a bunch of beers, so we went kind of nuts, and that's why I was asking you before she decided to drink with me. I was going to have the pumpkin spice one to myself. And I was like, oh, could I do it? Like, does it need to be split? And you're like, no, 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 it's not overkill, because sometimes they can be overkill, beers like that, right? And you don't want 500 mils of
Yep.
11.9%, when 11.9 means it's probably 14.5. Imperial stout with all of these adjuncts in it, and by the time you're halfway through, you're just like, oh my god, I can't do this anymore. So,
Yep.
I feel like depending on the base of the beer, I think the pumpkin pie stout had pumpkin pie in it. It had pumpkin. It had the spices. It had graham cracker to make the pie. Like it had the whole thing. And obviously, Third Moon are incredible with their pastry stouts. I think probably a stout is my favorite base for a pumpkin beer. Nightmare from Four Origins, which is the one I thought you were going to mention, which is probably the most, arguably one of the best, most consistent annual beer, pumpkin beer at I think it's 6%. Nothing crazy. It's like what, a porter if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
That's right. It is a porter, and yeah, props to Four Origins because I like. First of all, they're one of the only breweries in Quebec that that makes pumpkin beers that I can think of, and
Yes,
they've done Nightmare. I think like it must be something like 5 years in a row now.
I think so.
And they've done other pumpkin beers as well, like as a couple of one-offs. But Nightmare is the one they do every year, and it's really really solid. And like as you say, like a porter, a stout is a great base for that. It's like I guess there's something about like the darker malt like profile that I guess just works with like with pumpkin as an adjunct, and it's
Mm.
definitely a good base for the spices. One thing I wanted to like to come back to with what you're saying with the spices and how different proportions can like can really kind of make it a bit dicey. I'm thinking of one from a couple of years ago that I had from Collective Arts, their Origin of Darkness stout
Oof.
series that they come out with every year around this time. A couple of years ago, they had one that was a spiced. Like imperial stout, and it was very heavy on cinnamon. I was expecting to absolutely love that one because of how much I love those spices in stouts, but I was surprised that I really didn't like it because there was so much cinnamon in it that it was coming out tasting like cinnamon hearts, which was just
Mm.
not what I was expecting. I was expecting something more just kind of like warm and like and comforting,
Subtle.
like just tasting like fall baking. But like it really like punched me in the face with with a really like biting cinnamon heart thing, and I was just really not into it. And like that's where balance really like can really be important when it comes to spices like that in beers.
That's a great example. I know that is a Origins of Darkness is a killer series. They have had times where they've just gone a little too hard and a little wild with it. And it could come from I'd never seen Collective do a pumpkin beer or work with a ton of spices from memory. I may be wrong. They do a lot with fruit and
Um,
hops, obviously,
I
but
I can think of one pumpkin beer that they did a little while back, and it was a pumpkin sour. It was a really weird one. I didn't care for it personally. I the like the style was just it didn't quite
That's odd.
it didn't quite work for me. Some people some people liked it, and some people liked that like that Cinnamon Heart's Origin of Darkness too. That's fine. Just didn't work for me.
No, and that's really what it is, man. And like, being connoisseurs of pumpkin beers like you and I, we have, very particular palates for this shit. It's
Yep.
it's really interesting, and I would imagine that. Not I imagine when pumpkin beers first, when we first got into pumpkin beers, I don't know when you did. I think I was always interested in them probably since 2011 when I first discovered beer and I was doing the 365 or whatever. And almost all pumpkin beers, the base was an amber, essentially, an amber lager. Do you remember that? Or an amber ale of some sort. Because they were always an ale. I should say specifically, it was not a lager. It was just kind of like a English amber ale with a bunch of spices and some pumpkin in it. Which maybe this was more like that back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, the only lager that I can think of is the Flying Monkeys pumpkin lager that's out right now, and the less said about that, the better. But yeah, when thinking back to the early 2010s, like you're talking about, like most of the pumpkin ales, like you say, were kind of they were ales. Exactly like this, basically. A common one which is still out today that I remember having from the early 2010s is Grand River's Highballer pumpkin.
Yeah, fuck, that's a throwback.
Yeah, that was one of those ones that and it's still out today. But that one was very similar to this. There's a few others, but this was really the common pumpkin ale was exactly that. It was always pumpkin ale with very little the kind of variation between them.
Yeah.
And I'm also remembering now as we're looking back a little bit, and speaking of GLB, back when this was in those tall bottles with the pretty embossed labels and whatnot, there was a couple of years that they also did a pumpkin saison called Saison de Pump.
I remember that. That was good.
And that one was really good. It was really, really good. And it was only around for a couple of years, though, unfortunately. I've not seen it return since.
No.
But in any case, this is a really good pumpkin beer. And pumpkin beers have really expanded a lot since the early 2010s in a lot of the ways that we've just described. But this is very reminiscent of those pumpkin ales from the early 2010s, and you know what? It's really enjoyable. It's there's nothing too overwhelming with it. It's got a bit of a different flavor to it. The spices are subtle but present. It's comforting. Just like those lagers, in these cool fall evenings, it's got something just a little bit extra to it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to drink. It's not unpleasant. I feel like anyone could probably get into this, even if pumpkin beers aren't their thing. This is not attempting to be extreme, which tends to be the nature of craft beer these days. The more hops, the more fucking adjuncts, the better. This is not that. This is it's probably aimed at a more general audience that could enjoy it, which I think is very important. Gateway pumpkin beer, maybe, that allows people to sort of get into the style without sort of scaring people away by these intense, extreme things. And I don't know if you remember, one of the other early ones I had was called Pumpkin from Southern Tier. It was at LCBO. Because Southern Tier from, I think it's Jamestown, New York, they were one of my first favorite breweries because they were everywhere in the LCBO. They just had some sort of arrangement. They were just pumping shit out. And Pumpkin, I got that back in the day when, for some reason, when Scott and I were doing the 365 together, we would never split the beers, ever. We would just buy our own beers and do it. And then we'd look back and be like, what the fuck are we doing? We're spending double the money. And we'd be drinking a 750, I think it was 10%. It was the most intense beer I think I've ever had. And I drank the whole 750. I swear to God. It was way too much. But it tasted like pumpkin pie. I remember that. But you needed 4 ounces of it. Like you didn't need
Yep.
750 mils to the face. So I
Yep.
remember that also was an amber base, all those different pumpkin beers. And you know what's funny? Moving to Quebec, I recall being excited for pumpkin beers and then finding none. Or no, that's not true. There was 3 in the entire province. There was Brasseur de Tente did one. There was one for some random brewery. I think it was called MAG. It's like MAGOUILLE. I was kind of playing on citrouille, like the French word for pumpkin. And Saint Ambroise has a pumpkin beer, if I'm not mistaken. That was kind of
Yes,
it
they do.
for many, many years in Quebec. Like it pissed me off to no end. And that was why I always shat on Quebec beer until they just all of a sudden went from sort of flat to just like boom, like through the roof, amazing. Like they didn't even have that, and I don't know if any of those beers even continue. Maybe the Saint Ambroise does. He's still around, but
Saint Ambroise definitely
still
still
around.
does that. Like, oh yeah, yeah. And
That was
that one's
solid.
even available in Ontario. I think like I'm pretty sure the Saint Ambroise pumpkin is even in LCBOs.
When's the last time you had that? Probably a while ago. Eh?
The last time I had that was probably when I did like when I did the pumpkin beer article.
Roundup, yeah. So a few years ago. Like I imagine that would be
Yeah.
something similar to this, like a very approachable, balanced, not in your face. I think that was the beauty of it.
Yeah. And I'm going back a little bit on it, but I feel like that one was probably even subtler in the spices. Like I feel
Mm,
like I feel like the spices were really kind of in the like in the background of that one.
yeah, I think you're right too. And they used to only sell it in 4 packs, and I was never mad about that because it was a pleasure to drink. It was just a nice beer. If you wanted to have some pumpkin beers, it was really perfect for this time of year. So like it sounds like both provinces do have
Yep.
that. I mean, obviously now you got 4 Origins, and we're going to be visiting one of their beers later on. They got Nightmare, and they've been introducing more pumpkin beers. I don't recall any other, like kind of you said, like I can't think. I'm sure there's probably like a bunch of one-offs that some breweries do. Maybe they don't distribute them or make a big deal about it or whatever.
Yeah.
But it seems to not be as much of a thing in Quebec. I mean, it's not like it's a massive thing
Yeah.
here either. you know?
I mean, I think it is bigger in Ontario. And I think there's certainly a lot more of them here. Um, there's there's a girl on Instagram called her tag is Hop Girl Heather, and for the last couple of years she's done an annual pumpkin off where she's just kind of gathered as many pumpkin beers as she can find, and going through them style by style and choosing the best pumpkin beer of the year, which is quite good. And I'm impressed that every year she's finding even more like pumpkin beers. So so that's one to check out if you're wondering who's making pumpkin beer in in Ontario, and and a couple from the from the US as well.
I was about to ask where she based, but okay, so she's out here. Interesting.
Yeah,
I,
she's in Toronto, I think.
are most of the beers she's getting, are they like brewery only ones that aren't getting distro type things?
Yeah, most of them are brewery only ones. I think that there's a couple of of LCBO ones, a handful, but but most of them are brewery only stuff.
That's dope. So she's going really out the way. Okay, that's dope. It's
Yep.
it's cool, man. Like it's an interesting topic. I feel like they do get they meaning pumpkin beers like a bit of a bad rap from a lot of. I feel like they're still like I don't know if controversial is the word, but they're still a thing. Like
It's I would say it's not even controversial, and it's a lot quieter than it used to be. Like people you and I know some folks who who really made it their business to they like to shit on pumpkin beers every year. It's gotten a lot quieter than it has been in previous years. I
yeah,
feel like people are rightly starting to not care about it, but it definitely is is still a thing in uh, in kind of the lonely corridors of beer Twitter and beer Facebook, and whatever. Like
lonely
no one gives a
corners.
fuck.
I feel like there's so many more things to be angry about in the real world, and in if you want to be mad at beers. I feel like there's I don't know. Are people still mad at smoothies? I don't even know anymore. I haven't really seen much smoothie hate
Um,
these days. I feel like they've just become the
yeah,
normal.
even that's died down. Like,
Why people need to
no
hate
one
more
gives a
stuff,
fuck,
bro?
man.
People need to hate more stuff because then we need to jump on the bandwagon of the stuff they hate and then support those things because we're positive here, Nate.
Yeah, because that then we need to create a new new hashtag team something, new Twitter account,
And just ride
uh,
for it.
all of these other things we need to counteract it. We need right.
It's exactly, bro. We need our content, and we just need to be what's the word for people who are purposely just against the status quo for the sake of it? What's that called again? Contrarians.
Yeah.
So if more people in the beer world are mad at something, then for the most part, you and me are for it. Sometimes we have gone our separate ways on innovation. I'm a little more liberal. Sometimes Nate is a little more conservative with what innovation is, and I respect it, and it's okay. I'm a little further. I'm a little further out on the scale.
It starts some fights internally, but
We get past it.
We've survived it.
Here we are, all these years later. Jesus Christ, it's good time. So I mean, like, I do really want to see some more pumpkin beers around. I feel like it's kind of fun. I'd like to see like brewery. Like I love seeing Third Moon did the fucking pumpkin pie bestowed, and they did the pumpkin epoch slushy, but it was pumpkin puree with mango, graham crackers, and some other shit, and it was money. You and I, look, I'm sure they're probably well aware. Five Paddles did a pumpkin smoothie, but it wasn't sour, so it was essentially like drinking. You know, you get a can of pumpkin puree and mix some water in it, add a little bit of carb, and then you're drinking that. It was very strange. It was
all like. You're right that it wasn't sour, and that made it weird. But it was also way too thick. Like
it was,
I remember pouring it, and it was
like
pouring like the thickness of Jell-O. Like the about it didn't didn't package well. It was a really weird one.
It was a valiant attempt, and I'm glad that we both got hold of it because I was excited. Like my friend Tim in Whitby got that for me. He always looks out for pumpkin beers, and there's another one from, I think it might be Five Panels as well. And it's basically like they made it look like a Starbucks, like a pumpkin spice latte blonde or something.
Yes.
That they do every year.
Yes.
Also not really my fave because I don't like the base as much, but a pumpkin spice latte beer, if that was a porter or something, money. I just don't know because then if you're saying pumpkin spice latte, that's insinuating the lactose for the milk. So you get a lactose blonde ale with all of these spices, and I just don't think that base can hold it. I think it does need those chocolate malts to, at the very least, some amber malts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree. Like the only thing with that one is that it kind of comes off a bit like a white stout, and I'm not really down with white stouts most of the time. It's one of those things of that flavor profile really needs the dark malts to to kind of have a bit of a richer backbone.
Yeah.
And it like something about it like it can be done well, but more often than not, I don't care for them.
I respect it. It's not really the move for it. I think once again it's such a specific style that it's got to be done in a certain.
Yeah.
If you got to do a lighter body or lighter base, act accordingly with the other adjuncts. You know, you can't just pound it like you would on a darker base or something like that. It doesn't really fit. So it's this really crazy nuanced style that it's very easy to shit on, like you said, like, you know, and only very lonely people now are investing the time into doing that. But I'd like to see more breweries doing it. I'd like to see more people like bothering to try it and not kind of write it off. And maybe the fact that there's so much innovation, so to speak, across beer, pumpkin isn't, I don't know, it's either not exciting enough because it's kind of older school because it's been around for so long. People haven't like tried as many crazy new things with it. I mean, there's been a few more, you know. The Five Paddles was a swing and a miss, but a swing nonetheless. I think what Third Moon did with it was it worked. Both of their executions in 2 different styles, a smoothie sour and a pastry stout, worked. Might not have, but
just so that we're not doing nothing but shitting on Five Paddles,
yes.
to their credit, because every year they put out like 4 or 5 pumpkin beers, because they do Pumpkin Palooza like every year, which
Oh,
is
they
great. I
do
love to see them
too. Yes.
doing that depth of pumpkin beers every time. And last year, or maybe it was the year before, I can't remember, but one of them was a pumpkin oatmeal stout, and it was
Ooh,
money. It was it was great. Just a straight up, not even imperial, like 6.5%.
perfect.
Nice rich oatmeal stout, but with pumpkin, and that really worked. That one was really good.
I love that. I think that is phenomenal. I think you're right. We definitely need to give Five Paddles their props. I didn't mean to poke fun of them. It's just they were the ones that didn't work that came to mind that I'd had most recently,
Yeah,
and because
of
I'd
course.
had most of their stuff the last few years, because they do Pumpkin Palooza, which is amazing. See, that is a dedication to it, and by the very nature of it, there's going to be some hits and some misses. It just is what it is.
Of course. Of
But
course.
I love that oatmeal stout. That sounds perfection. I don't think I got my hands on that from memory. But I love that they do that, and it's just encouraging pumpkin beers, to people who, because they've got so many different styles. Like, how can you do Pumpkin Palooza if you don't do different styles? So by the very nature of that, They have to try different things, and it's going to be weird. That's the only way for that to work. So, I mean, I just love the fact that they're bothering to do it, though, and taking that risk.
Exactly.
And then canning it, too, and getting it out there. It's fucking great.
Yep.
On that note, then, shall we keep
Next
this moving? Yes, sir.
Yep. All right, I'll go grab it.
Yes, sir. I'm pretty sure I remember what this was. I think, this is what we're doing. All right. But yes, pumpkin beers, all for it, highly for it. And it was very interesting. Actually, no, I'll tell Nate. I just had an interesting, one of those, like, you think of something and then it happens type shit. Yeah, man, these first 2, I think, 2 of our favorite fall styles, and now we're gonna swing back into the crispy boy zone for something a little different. I actually haven't had this beer yet, but Nate did have it recently, so I'm excited to try. I only got 1 can, so I didn't get to try it earlier. Fun side note, though. While you were sort of talking, I don't know why we were just talking about Ontario versus Quebec, and I was like, oh, we're moving into our top 10 time of year. We're going to do the top 10 Ontario beers.
That's right.
And I was thinking about that, and literally 3 minutes ago, Matt from Vox and Hops messaged me about the Quebec one. Because we do the Quebec one with Matt and Noah, and I do the Ontario one with you. And now I'm here in Ontario. It's going to be fun. I'm excited for this year. I feel like this year, it's going to be very different to last year. I feel like we already know who our number one's going to be without even talking about it. I don't think there's going to be a question. Yep. The top 10 will be. I don't even think we disagreed on any of the points. I think last year. I think we've got this is it. Yeah. That's it. This is super easy. It's gonna be fun, man. We should do that probably.
It was easy. There was not much debate.
No, like 0. We haven't even. Oh, last year it was, and I think this year will be the same thing. We should do that early December. I don't know why. I feel like it's fun as fuck. It's just such a cool. Are we actually? When did we do it? No, we did it in January, didn't we? This year.
We did it. We did it in early January.
What do you want to do this year?
And I think that I think that worked because that gave us time to kind of absorb like any December releases that came out during that time. So doing doing kind of the wrap up of the year in the early new year, I think worked.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I love it. I'm excited to do it. We could definitely do that in January. Then I'm down as fuck for that. It's just going to be. I think that is one downside. I forgot. I know that with the Quebec one that we typically would do it in the December, but I guess you're right that it sort of discounts any of the December releases, which isn't totally fair because some breweries might save some fire to then
and just knock our socks off.
Exactly, and then you're like, oh well, they made that top 10, didn't they? So. I mean, I imagine our mind will be mostly made up, but still, I'm excited for that. So everyone look out for that. I guess the Ontario one will probably be like we'll do it like maybe first week of January or something. Um,
Yeah.
and the Quebec one will probably be in December, just because there's multiple parties involved. Whereas you and me, it's a little easier. But some of my favorite episodes to do, man. I'm very much looking forward to it. Now, this
Me
beer,
too.
this is a beer we both selected because it's from one of our favorite new breweries of the year. I can't imagine this brewery not making the top 10. And we both really love their Crispies. These guys do some fantastic stuff. This is the first beer of the style that I've had from these guys. This is Fine Balance's Märzen, Kingston, Ontario's the new hope of the city, which is doing some brilliant stuff out there now. Big shouts to Andrew and the team. Such a wonderful human being. They were part of the last Link Up series as well. They were a pleasure. Their beer was spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Andrew and the team are just fantastic. Like you were saying, made the top 10 list last year.
Oh, did
Definitely
they?
one of the best new.
I don't remember,
Yeah. Oh,
man.
yeah,
You
they
got
did.
such a good memory. My memory is fucking stupid.
Yeah, they were on the top 10 list last year.
Okay.
Well deservedly so.
Okay.
And here we go, proper glassware and everything.
Oh,
Check this shit out.
flexing on them, Nate. Always coming through with the flex, you motherfucker.
Oh yeah. So I'll tell you I'll tell you a story about this beer,
Please.
because we also had Andrew on the pod last fall.
We did, and that was for
hang
their because they just celebrated an anniversary.
It was just coming up. It was just coming up on their 1 year anniversary.
And this is their 2 year. Did you get any of their anniversary releases? Because I did not.
I got the barrel aged coffee stout that they did with Durand. That was the only one I was able to snag.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so this beer rather, was the beer that I had on tap at Fine Balance when I did when I went there for my birthday last year.
Oh,
So that was the first beer that I had from them on site.
Oh, that's sick. Okay, I was super jelly when you went there. I just thought it was sick, man. You got to swing by. Hang on. So then, that would have been last September then. I guess.
Yes.
Hence for that. Okay. So.
Yep, and then we had Andrew in October or something.
Yeah. Okay. We're about due for having him back on. I mean, we had him on for Link Up and stuff, but it wasn't about the brewery. It was just obviously about Link Up. So maybe we should look into doing that.
We should. We should have him on again. I'd be down for that. I'm sure he'd be game.
I feel like a lot has changed for him, and usually I love these sort of every year to excuse me, a year to a year and a half is I think a really good time to have people on the pod. It just seems to work. So this one is a Märzen. This is 6%. It's as you can tell, it's probably similar-ish color, maybe even darker actually than the Festbier. My head has dissipated at this point. First and foremost, cheers, my brother.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is arguably, I was about to say significantly, I don't think that's a fair word. This is a lot more bolder and a little more intense than the Tooth and Nail Festbier.
Yep.
Do you want to give us the rundown of what a Märzen is, what the vibe is from your research that you did there?
Yes. So there is not a ton of distinction between Märzen and Festbier.
Huh.
The idea of them is basically the same. The origins of Märzen are from the beers that are made for Oktoberfest. Just the same. The subtle differences are that it's a bit darker in color.
Yep.
As you can see, we'll do a side by side here, because this here is the Tooth and Nail Festbier, and this here is the Fine Balance Märzen. So as you can see, way more amber, like quite a bit, like quite a bit darker in color there. So like a richer malt profile, like kind of like bolder, a bit more bitter. Those tend to be the characteristics. It's in the same vein, but a bit more on like on a few of those.
Okay.
In terms of what like the very specifics like of the style itself, Märzen means it means March beer, and this comes from like kind of the old German brewing tradition, which is that beers were only supposed to be brewed between the months of September and April. Back when
Okay.
you were not supposed to brew beer during the summer months,
Why is
for a
that?
number of reasons. Like just because of the technology at the time made lagering in warmer weather difficult, and also just uh, like safety wise, like equipment was less safe during that time, and fires during the summer month were more likely. So, but I feel like the lagering process in warmer weather with the technology at the time was probably more of an issue. So, because you had that break over the summer from from April to September that you
Hmm.
weren't supposed to be brewing in, the March beer, the Märzen, was one that you could brew right before that, like right before you had to go on that summer hiatus. And the idea was because they were a bit bolder and a bit more bitter, they could last through the summer. That like to still be drinkable during the summer and all the way into the fall when the next brewing season would start.
Hmm.
So that's why the like the Märzen is what is what eventually became the Oktoberfest beer, as kind of it's the beer that lasted through the summer and and made it into the fall when the brewing season started back up again.
Fascinating. I love that. That's lit, bro. It's I knew it meant March, but I wasn't sure why they had this in October or September.
Yeah,
But that makes sense.
yeah. And then basically Festbiers became a thing that like when these Märzens were being consumed at Oktoberfest, in order to lighten it up a bit so that people could drink more, they so they dialed in the ABV a little bit, made it made it a tiny bit more crushable, and that's what winds up with what is now Festbiers.
Hmm. Fucking fascinating. See, this shit is sick, bro. And this is like, it's
I
just like,
should, I, Yeah, yeah, it really is. I should add, by the way, before anyone starts starts writing emails or or getting up in my mentions on on Twitter, I'm not a historian. This is all this is all just from a result of googling a little bit before before we jumped on here, just to just to dial up. So don't at me.
it's I appreciate you for that. Yes, guys, we're just trying to figure it out. I imagine there's a bunch of people out there who will let us know if we were wrong or if we missed anything or if there's any additional context, which we always appreciate
I'm sure that
because
yeah.
we,
No,
we
I know there's people who know more about this than I do. I'm sure there's a lot more nuances to it than that, but high level, that's the deal.
and that's what thank you so much, and that's what we're trying to get across here. And we never, like we were saying earlier, we sort of in comparison to other styles, this is something that we both have become passionate about in the last couple of years, as opposed to like 15 years of being obsessed with lagers. Like, it's not really what it was. So we're learning about all this stuff as we go, and I kind of find it like extra fascinating because there's a historical angle, and then there's like the new world and like how people are trying to recreate what people are doing in Germany and Bavaria and Czech Republic and things like that. It's just fascinating, and then it seems like there's a large appetite for this style of beer for all things German and Czech, I guess. Particularly these this style from the fall stuff, like all over the world now, and I don't know if that has increased or if maybe our awareness has opened to it. Like,
Yep.
is that coming from? I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Like, are more craft beer drinkers getting into it, and therefore it's becoming more prevalent, or are we just noticing it and it was always like this and it was, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's hard to say if more drinkers are getting into it. I mean, like that has to be part of it, but I wonder if it's more just an aspect of like of kind of the brewing scene itself is maturing a little bit, and it's becoming a bit more of a thing, I think, for breweries to be a bit more diversified. Like we went through a couple of years of new breweries coming out that are really heavily focused on like on hype styles only, like that like your and like, and I don't mean to use hype as in the dirty word, but that like, but you know what I mean. Like your Third Moons, like your Bas Canadas, your Sir John's, the
Badlands, Brewski,
and
Willibald,
yeah, Badlands Brewski, like
Barncat.
the like there.
Yeah, yeah.
But like it's also become more of a thing now for like for new breweries, and even some of the more traditionally hype breweries are diversifying their range a little bit, and like and it's becoming more of a thing to have a more diverse range of styles. And Fine Balance, I think, is very similar to Cinquième Baron in that way, which is that they brew the hype styles very, very well. Like they'll brew a fantastic hazy IPA or a hazy double, um, but but it's still but they also diversify into having some really solid lagers and some really solid sours and some really and some really excellent stouts, and they're just kind of not really like put like they're not really going through it on the same like on the same single thread like as some others are, and I think that's becoming more the norm now. If you want to keep on going on that, I need to change my camera battery. I'll
I
be back
assumed
in
as
just a
much.
second.
Yeah, you're good. No, that's a really great point. That Fine Balance are definitely doing that approach that Sankey have, where they're like impeccable at hype stuff, but don't hang their hat on the fact that they do the hype stuff. Um, it's actually sort of like almost it's an interesting model. I feel like it's almost like a safer model because they've got the hype quality whilst still being able to satiate everybody else with their other impeccable styles. And if the hype thing, the current hype styles do change, they aren't their entire business isn't weighted on that. At the same token, I guess the downside is that they, the part of the why they're so busy. The breweries are focused on the hype stuff. That's what they do, and I don't know, that hasn't gone anywhere for 5 years, 5+ years. So I mean, like I can't see it changing anytime soon.
And it also like it's also just a matter of, I think the brewers at those places are passionate about having like those other styles as well. Like
Yeah,
I think it's really important to the team at Five Balance and at and at Cinquième Baron and the like to do those styles. I don't think they're doing them because they feel like they have to. I think they're doing them because they want to.
yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more. And they didn't give a fuck. I even joked because I'm trying to sort out a BOS collab with Saint Kiam, and I was like, all right, let's do a smoothie sour. And Jacob's like, fuck no, bro. Like we're not doing a smoothie sour. So like they've got their. I knew that Chris told me, so I thought I'd just like tease him. But I thought like I like that they've got their thing, and they're like, no, we don't do that. Sorry, like. And
Yep.
I think that's sort of cool that they have their thing, but also are down to experiment with different stuff, and they have their way of doing it. And I think that Sankyam are probably a bit more of a traditional way. They're doing not that their haze is traditional by any means. Their haze is spectacular, like their whole mixtape series and all the nectar and other one-offs that they've done. What was the one that we loved? The purple and pink can. It was disco something.
That was Boca del Vista.
Fucking hell, that was incredible. That was my favorite haze they ever did. It was just impeccable. Boca del Vista, yes.
Same here, hands down.
This summer.
Like my favorite,
Ugh.
my favorite that they've done.
Delightful. I hope.
Actually, you know what? It would actually be a tough call for me between that and Hopism, because Hopism was
Ooh.
was legit spectacular. Not even boosting just for Noah's sake, but that was an excellent beer.
Yeah, it truly was. It's just I feel like that was the money zone. It was 7% as well. It was like perfect. I mean, all their haze is typically 6.5 in the mixtape series. Sometimes they have some 7%ers, but Hopism was glorious. I asked Jacob. I was like, I think they just didn't get around to sliding in an Oktoberfest beer in their the brewing schedule this year. That's why they didn't have one. They had their regular lagers. I think that was what he said. They wanted to do it. But I feel
I need to bug him about that.
Yeah,
I need to bug him about that more, because
you're probably gonna find it
I
out.
remember I was telling Chris last year that, like, we want to get a fucking Märzen in there, man. Like that
Come
would
on,
be
bro.
killer.
Or a Festbier, something.
Like a Senkiam Märzen. But it didn't happen last year, and it didn't happen this year. They do have their Vienna lager though, and the Vienna lager is really good.
What's the name of that again?
It is slipping my mind at the moment. I'm probably going to remember when we're two beers further into this. But
Right, of course, you know how it goes. That was I was literally in front of
Belvedere.
you.
That's what it's called.
Belvedere.
Belvedere.
Good for you. You're the man. I was about to say they should do an amber lager, then you just brought that up. So of course, because I think they've only done that one time, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they've done that at least twice.
Okay, you're probably a little. I always forget how much they've done, but I love that they did that. So I think they just didn't get to slip it into the production this time, but it's very much in their wheelhouse. And I think that any sort of Oktoberfest style, whether it's a Märzens Festbier, anything like that, they would knock it out the park. So hopefully, maybe next year if they plan it ahead, I can imagine, because I think for them, what comes first is the event. The event is big, and the event takes a lot of work for them. It zaps all of their energy. As you can probably imagine, there's 8 million moving parts. So,
Yep.
Yeah, trying to handle all that. But yeah, was there any other Märzens that you saw this year, Quebec, Ontario, or beyond, that you enjoyed, or that you just saw? Because I'm trying to think of some as well that were accessible.
I'm trying to think.
Do you know who did one? Badlands. I haven't had it yet, but I got it. It's called Oktoberfest. I got it yesterday. Excuse me.
Right. They did. That's true.
Which is very interesting, because they do lagers, they do haze, and they do the very occasional stouts, and their lagers are getting better. Like we had the CS Pills and the other Cheltenham lager, I believe it was called. And now they did the Oktoberfest. So I'm very excited to see how what Troy did with that style.
Yeah. I remember, I don't know if they did it this year. I don't think I saw it. I know Badlands did a Festbier last year. In terms of ones that are available this year, I know Kitchissippi does a Festbier every year.
Okay, beautiful. Godspeed, Nonby, or Nonby, whatever. I had that the other day.
Yes.
Nonby. Fantastic. Yep. I had that. Beautiful. I think it's is that a Festbier or is that a Märzen? Let me check.
I think it's a Festbier.
Okay.
I feel like they market that as an Oktoberfest beer.
Yeah, Oktoberfest beer, actually. Oh no, it says Märzen in here.
Really?
Oktoberfest beer brewed for a 2-week-long celebration, blah blah blah. But so that's what they say in their description. But in the category, it's under Märzen. But I guess that's just the high level category. So they're calling it an Oktoberfest beer. You're right. And looking at the color, it's more like Tooth and Nail's color than this color, or somewhat in between.
Right.
So that's a good one. I've had that multiple times. I made sure to grab that every year. Fantastic one. Who else did one?
Yep.
I'm trying to picture it. I saw someone did. Was it Blood Brothers or Willowboard? I think Willowboard did some. They had it at Durand. I bought too many beers, so I was like, "Fuck!" I had to chill. Willowboard did which is Oktoberfest, and they did like 2. Hey, this is the one, Oktoberfest lager. Lagered for 8 weeks. Fuck. Okay, I'm gonna have to grab that next time anyway. They had this one. It was like in blue. And then they had a red one, and it was a smoked
Oh
version.
yes, yeah, that was a smoked one. Yep, yep.
I'm not gonna
I
lie
remember seeing
though,
that now.
I don't know how you feel, but I'm not into smoked beers for the most part, except Godspeed because they do it so subtle.
Except Godspeed, that's the one that's the one exception.
I would try it because I know how good of a brewer Joe is.
Yep, exactly. I would also try it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't like. Yeah, I'd want to talk to Cam and see what's up with what he reckon. I'd be like, all right, what's the deal? How do you guys feel? Is it they might
Yep.
be like, I feel like Willowboard wouldn't go balls to the wall and make it a campfire beer. I think they would probably keep it very
I agree.
subtle, knowing the way they do that
I
export
agree.
lager, which is like you mentioned earlier, it was just such an exceptional 6% lager. Like you would never know. It's brilliant.
Like Willibald do some really good lagers.
Yeah, I
I'd
love that
have
shit, man.
faith that they that they do it well.
Mm. Yeah, I agree.
Um,
I'm
but
trying to
yeah,
think.
but holy fuck, like
This is brilliant, bro. I'm
fine
loving this.
fine balance are like are just fucking excellent. They're like such a good addition to the scene, like
Yeah,
to really kind of elevate the Kingston scene that much, and also just like an excellent addition to like to Ontario craft beer. I feel like they really kind of fit right in, you know.
couldn't agree more. And Andrew is such a sweet dude. Like he's such a good guy. I think I mentioned
Hmm.
earlier they did link up last series. Did an impeccable pale ale, exactly the quality that you'd think. They have and I'm mentioning that not to prop up link up, but to say they have this quarterly program where they want to do like essentially a charitable offering, whether it's a beer or some sort of thing. So link up fit into the second quarter for them for 2022. When they'd already done another beer in the first quarter, and they've got some other stuff planned for the rest of the year. So they really care about the community, dedicated to diversifying the brewery and giving back. And I just think that's really really key. It's a super warm,
Yep.
welcoming space. Everyone I met there was lovely. Doesn't matter what style, whether it's their gelato sours, their incredible haze, their stout, which I need to grab, called Other Half, the collab with Duran, which is the second collab, was like Imperial Stout. I think it's 9 or 9.5, like a coffee stout, if I'm not mistaken, since Duran is a cafe.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, they
And
just
did you catch too that they've now got a nitro tap for the gelato sours on site?
I did not catch that. I had the lagers on Nitro, on Luca there. Um,
No, on
glorious
a
one.
Lucre, but it's
Oh,
like so
but they
they've now
got
got a nitro
Nitro
as well.
specific. Okay, I did not know that. See, that's even
Yeah,
sicker. And the gelato
yeah,
sours are so fire.
yeah, because they've got like look, they've got the right tap for everything there, eh? Because they've got like they've got the Lucre for their lagers, and they've got and now they've got the nitro for their gelato sours.
It's beautiful, man. If I'm ever up that way again, like I'm not up there like I kind of used to be. I used to always be going past it, so it was sort of, even though I only went there one time, it's like super out of the way. I wish it wasn't so far.
Well, it's not like I mean, if you're ever coming back up the 401 again, if you're ever coming back towards Ottawa, like it's like 2 minutes off the highway. It's
Yeah, it's right
super
there.
like it's super close to the 401 actually.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Just in that industrial park off that, they're like the one or two exits past Division Street. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
such a dope spot, man. Every time I drive past, I think about it every single time I drive past it, and I've always got somewhere to be, and I just don't have the time. Whenever I was doing that drive when I was based in Montreal, and so now I've only been back that way one time, going to Saint Guillaume. So I definitely want to give it a crack, and I want to go. My friend is opening a food truck in Prince Edward County at some point. I think he almost might have missed the season though. He got fucked with the government. What do you call it? The documentation, not the licenses, but all the permits and stuff that you have to do. Everything
Yeah.
got blown out for time, so now it's October. So about to be November by the time everyone hears this. So I think he kind of got. He probably missed the boat. I don't know what happens in winter with food trucks. I imagine they're probably not popping. So he kind
Probably
of,
not.
yeah. So I was looking forward to going and seeing him and staying there for a weekend, and then going to see all my friends and going to see to Andrew and even Daft. who we had on as well. That was a great podcast. So boy Adam and
Yep.
good dudes,
And
man.
Ryan.
And Ryan, yeah. Yeah, man, it's just exciting. I love seeing that. I'm just so optimistic about the craft beer scene, and particularly now living here in Ontario. I'm seeing, I'm dealing with Ontario beers on the day-to-day basis. Obviously, I got a bunch of Quebec stuff here, but I'm not around it, like walking out my front door like I used to be.
Yep.
It's spectacular here, man. I just think it's such a beautiful time. It was amazing in Quebec too, and it still is. And I'm very jealous I can't always get access to it. You and me did a nice little trade when you hooked me up with some Saint Kiem and some other stuff, which was glorious. And that brewski recently, fucking money. Thank you again.
Wasn't that great? My God.
Dude, yeah, I had that dandy the other night. Like I think you said, it was the first stout from them. Very on par with their stout program. It's brilliant. And I had
that and that sticky. Oh man, that was good.
It was like a haze bomb that was West Coast.
That was like one of the dankest the dankest haze I've had in a good long while.
I've never had a beer that dank. It literally smelled like marijuana, like you put your nose in a bag of weed. I've never experienced anything like that. And then to
someone took a drag off of a blunt, blew it into a glass, and then you just like drink it.
Drinking that shit. It was wild. Yep. It was it was spectacular. There's some I feel like at least between these two provinces, there's just some genuinely world class spectacular beer. I got some stuff from my friend. I did a trade with a friend in Ontario who wanted some Third Moon stuff. In Quebec, who wanted some Ontario stuff because Third Moon just did their Halloween drop. I don't know if you saw that. They had
They did.
Yeah, I got everything except the peanut butter stout just because I don't like peanut butter really. But he wanted some of the barley wine, and it wasn't available to ship because I was like, you can ship it to me and I'll get it to you. He's like, no, they don't. But Duran gets everything because Chris has a great relationship. So I picked himself up, and he sent me some California stuff. So he sent me some Monkish.
Goddamn.
Monkish Green Cheek. What was the other one? North Park from San Diego. I've been there before. Great spot. And I had some of the Monkish last night. That's when I got accidentally fucked up. I don't know what happened. I think my tolerance has gone down or something. It was spectacular. It really was. But I don't know. That's why I'm really excited to try this stuff, bro, because I feel like I haven't had as much American stuff in the last 2.5, 3 years, just like you haven't, as we normally would. You and me were always going places. We were always doing stuff and having access to beer. So now when we get it, you went to Maine, you blessed me because you got some extras. I'll talk to you about it after if you want in on some of this stuff. I just traded him because he just goes, get that, and he was like, I'll trade you, like as opposed to like just paying. He's like, oh, trade. I'm like, okay. I've got some of this.
Yeah.
He must have. I think he gets like a bunch of it, and then it was more like he had extras. He'd already had it, so he was just let it go. And it worked out to be they're like $20 a can by the time you calculate price difference, customs, and all that bullshit. Sure. It's pretty obscene value. But I only had two from what he gave me so far, and they were the Monkish ones and a bunch of other ones. But whilst it was spectacular, it really was. I don't know if it's that much better than what we get here. Like, I don't. You know how before you would try stuff and you're like, Canada's got a way to go.
Yeah.
I don't think we have that far to go, if at all.
We've come a long way in bridging the gap there for sure.
Ooh. I'm excited to try.
Really have.
Yeah, man. And it's not to say it's not spectacular. The Bissell Brothers stuff you got, spectacular.
Absolutely not.
Fantastic.
Absolutely not. Like when I went to Bissell Brothers, it's like, okay, like, you know what? Like, this is genuine fire. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also one of those things now of when I go to Badlands and I'm like, you know what? If I'm drinking something from Badlands, I'm not wishing that I was drinking Monkish or or Bissell Bros, we've got good, we've got world-class shit here.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. And Bebo said it on Chinwag. I think I've said it on here before, but you and me haven't done a pod for a while. So over the summer, I don't know if you remember, Bebo said that he thinks Badlands does the best haze in the world. And Bebo is from Chicago. He's been traveling a bunch over the last couple of years. Went to Yakima 2 years in a row. He did some stuff in London or in Europe. Gets sent a lot of, gets access because him and his business partner Chris were big traders before this. So they're just in the world of getting stuff. And he said on Chinwag in the comment, I get beer from everywhere, and Badlands are doing the best haze in the world, hands down. And
I remember him saying that, yeah.
I told Troy on the podcast. I did a podcast with Brew Detroit. I don't know if that's come out yet. Fuck. And we did it then. We got Troy on because we filmed it at Badlands. It was for me and Tiff as the guest essentially. But I was like, well, Troy's here. Let's get him on. And he jumped on for about half of it. Why not, right? And I told him that. I said, I don't want to put you on the spot, but Bebo said that. He's like, oh, fuck, all right. Fuck. You know what Troy's like? He's like very humble and took it in stride. But
yeah, of course.
I just feel like their stuff is so deeply spectacular. Like the FOMO I used to have for the American stuff, whilst I still want it. Like I want to try it. I want to drink Monkish. I want Burlington Beer Co. I want Foam. I want fucking Treehouse and Trillium and Alchemist and whatever.
We're not hurting here.
We're not hurting here, bro. We're just not. And I think, the breweries we mentioned tonight, like Fine Balance, I think are a big part of it. They're brewers worked at Other Half. Willowbold's brewer worked at Monkish. Troy is just some sort of scientific genius. Bebo is a fucking beast. Third Moon's body on their pale ales and IPAs, because you don't even need to talk about the doubles because that comes with the territory. Their lower AB stuff is second to none. It's just insane. Like it's fucking insane.
But even with the doubles, like I've even found that they've dialed in the body on their doubles too. They like it used to be a lot thicker and creamier, but like now it's a lot smoother, and the carb is really dialed in on it. Like they've even done it there too. So like across the board.
Yeah, man. I just think we're blessed. I think we're truly blessed. And my friends from the Brew Detroit podcast, when they came, I sent them, they interviewed Third Moon, and I took them to Badlands to do our interview because I wanted them to try that. And then they went to Volo in Toronto to hang out and try a bunch of stuff there. They lost their shit, coming from the States, and they get a bunch of stuff too. So, they were super amped at that. And I was like, look, if you guys are coming in, I want you to try my personal faves. And those are two of my faves. Yep. That are probably the easiest for you to connect with. And it was just, yeah, man, I just think we're super lucky to be able to have access to world-class crispies in multiple breweries. I think what the Fine Balance are doing, whether it's this Märzen or their Testaccio, the Italian pills, or the New Zealand Pilsner, or any of the other stuff that they're doing, A1, their haze are A1. I just feel like it doesn't matter. You name the style, like we can get it. All the farmhouse. I mean, there's some great stuff here in Ontario. I'm more familiar with the Quebec stuff, to be honest. But even just Bellwoods.
But there's some genuinely world class farmhouse shit in here, like here in Ontario as well. Let's pause before we go into that too much. I'm just eyeing the time, and we've got 2 more beers to get through. So we should probably grab the next one.
Ooh.
Okay, be right back.
Okay, beautiful. So. Next one here, I'll wait till Nate to talk about. This is like Nate's fave as far as his style. This is his thing every year. He loses his shit over this style, and I respect it. This is why we had to have 5 beers in this podcast, because we definitely had to keep something of this style in here to make sure that we covered as many of the kind of September, October, November, like fall kind of beers as possible, to sort of really round this thing out, keep it a bit more varied. So far we've done the Festbier, the pumpkin ale, the Märzen, and we're moving into something a little different. This particular beer, I'm going to let Nate introduce it. This particular beer is an annual release from this brewery. I have not had this year's version just yet. I'm excited for it. I saw Nate drinking it the other day and saw the tasty notes, and we were excited. I'm going to let you introduce this one because this is your jam right here. This is what gets Nate out of bed every day.
That's right. Yes. Like as soon as September rolls around, I'm just itching for it,
aching.
already.
What are we drinking, brother?
All right. So So here we are. Bellwoods Bine Hunter.
Yes.
Their wet hop pale ale. So
Oof.
we've talked about this before, and anyone who follows me knows I just rave for this shit. Like wet hop beers is my jam, and this is an annual one that Bellwoods puts out. One of the reasons that I'm like particularly wild for it is that like they're becoming less and less common.
They are.
It seems like about
What's up with that?
5 years ago, it seems to be a lot more common that everyone was brewing a wet hop. There was a time that Beyond the Pale was doing one, and Dominion City did one, and Sawdust City was doing one almost every year for a while. Nickelbrook was doing one almost every year. They actually did one this year as well. They're one of the few. But
What was Nickelbrook's
Bellwoods
one
has
called?
been Bellwoods has held true for me, and and has continued to put Bine Hunter out every year. So
They have.
it is
And it's different every
5%,
year.
Yes.
Which is what I love about this.
Yeah, it's true. It does get mixed up every year. There's a couple of different things because it's one of those because the thing with wet hop is that this is a very seasonal specific style. It is ones where the hops are picked fresh off the vine and are put in whole cone. So not not dried, not pelletized. They're put in whole cone. Within 24 hours of being picked. So that's why so it's fresh hops, which creates a super different flavor profile than dry hops or pelletized hops.
Yes.
So it's one of the things that can only come around this time of year. And
I love it.
I don't know if it's just becoming less common because just specifically because of the effort involved in doing that, or if there are some other factors to it. But for whatever reason, it's become less common. But Bellwoods is still doing this one, and interestingly, one of the things that I remember from either the first or second year that they did it, they also did a wet hop version of Paper Tiger, their dry hop lager.
They never do that
And
anymore. I love that beer.
They did it 1 year only. And it drives me mad because wet hop Paper Tiger I like even better than Bine Hunter. And I want them to bring that back so bad. It was so fucking good.
Oh man, I was actually referring to just Paper Tiger. When's the last time you saw Paper Tiger?
That has been a while.
That's a good point. Because I order every single time I do a Bellwoods order. Every time I get Bellweiser. Love Bellweiser. It's a treasure to me, and I keep it in the fridge at as much as possible. So I did the order for this one. I was like, oh, let me get a bunch more Bellweiser just to keep it around because it's just a pleasure. If I'm honest, I like Paper Tiger more than I like Bellweiser. So
yep.
I hadn't thought about it for a while, but I haven't seen that fucking beer. I mean, the wet hop, you're right.
It's been a bit, right?
It's been a fucking while, dude. And they used to do it like quarterly, something like that. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if it wasn't popular and they just leaned into Bellweiser. Bellweiser is great. But Paper Tiger, dude. Special beer.
Yeah.
So this is a wet hop pale ale with whole cone fresh hop Centennial hops.
Yes.
It's sort of like, as you can tell, it is, I was about to say clear. It's not clear. It's like slightly opaque, but mostly clear with a nice little bubbly head.
It's almost clear.
The hops are from Highland Hopyard in Meaford.
That's right.
Oof. And it says here it's dank.
Like a big...
Go.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to read the Untapped description of it to see if we get it. Did you do a sip? Or did you sniffing? Oof,
no, I'm just sniffing.
I'm even getting some of this from the nose. It says dank with a firm bitterness. It has notes of resinous pine and vitamin C candies, making it true to style to a classic West Coast pale ale. Vitamin C. I'm getting vitamin C on the nose, bro. That
Yeah.
sweet
Yeah,
citrus.
that's interesting.
I want to
Yep,
put this
sweet
in.
citrus for sure.
Nathaniel,
But the thing that cheers, brother.
cheers, get it in your mate.
The thing that I love about wet hop beers is kind of
Delicious.
just kind of like really like the super grassy like wet pine thing to it. Pine is the thing that gets me the most.
Yeah, wet pine. Yeah, I like that.
Mm.
This is
like I really love West Coast. I really love West Coast and those pale ales, and there's just like, and this is in that vein, but the wet hop gives it kind of different aspects to it, like it makes the it doesn't make any sense, but like it makes pine taste more wet. Like like there's a different element to it. It's got like it's kind of different sort of pine flavor.
This
The
is
certain like element to it, maybe a bit more earthy, but it's definitely got similar West Coast aspects to it with a twist.
I couldn't agree more. This is really good, dude. Do you know what could be interesting? It just hit me now. I wonder if you and I could even do a West Coast podcast, because another style that you and me are big on are West Coasts, particularly from Sankiem, who I would argue are both of our favorites or some of our favorites in the style.
Yep.
I feel like that could be a fun pod where we just try and gather up some of the most fire West Coast. You know, maybe with Sankiem does a drop, because sometimes they do like 2 or 3 in pretty quick succession.
Yep.
And they keep redoing them. Most of them aren't new, which is not a bad thing.
Yep.
Maybe it could be fun to try and get a bunch of, I don't know when West Coast season is. Maybe like spring or something, or do they do them over winter? I don't know.
Yeah, see. You know what I'm trying to think of right now. I'm trying to think of when Sawdust puts out Twin Pine, because I think they normally do that in the winter, like February, March, kind of thing.
Let's see.
But definitely the kind of thing that could be out at any time of the year. But like if we try to time it where we can get like a good bunch of West Coast, I'd be definitely down for that.
Yeah, that could be really fun. I tried to Google it quickly.
And if we hang on to a couple, we could probably manage 2 Sankyems in one in one episode, because like over the course of like a couple of releases, there'll probably be 2 West Coasts somewhere in there.
For sure. I mean, we could even tap them and just see what they got coming up and see if we can time it, because they usually have, like the other night I had, I think it was Juniper, which is their pale ale. I think I had that on Saturday, Money, and I think I've still got Sequoia left that you got me, which I'm a big fan of. And they had some of the others. There's another one recently. I mean, I love Cypress is a great one. The one that starts with W. What's the W one? What? Wemlock. Witchwood. Fire. Hemlock is great too. They're just like
Cypress.
Yeah, Cypress was probably one of the best ones as well. That could be fun, man, just because it's something just like this episode where we're really diving into sort of fall beers. Maybe we just do like a themed one, because no one... Do you know what would be cool to have on that one? Fucking Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. We should better just grab that from we should get the freshest that we can get from an LCBO.
Yep.
And see if we can, start with that. And like, this is the OG. This is the granddaddy to all of these other beers. I remember having
that, and along with that, we can grab like some of them. Like in Ontario is actually pretty great for having some really accessible, like West Coast IPAs. If we grab like some Lone Pine and some Headstock in there too.
Love Headstock. Yeah, those two will be amazing. Even if it's like year rounders that people can grab with us, type of thing. Maybe we let people know that, hey, we're doing this, so for the pod, grab these. This is when it drops, and drink these beers with us.
Drink along,
even if it's not live. Yeah. It's still they can drink on the same beers. Maybe we could do it for that one, because we're able. Like just with this, we probably could have done it with this, but some of these were like harder to get, to be honest. The only one that's standard was the pumpkin ale from Great Lakes. Everything else was probably like a bit of a mission for people to get.
Yep.
And obviously the next beer is from Quebec too, so it's also a little tougher. So if we try and make it more accessible stuff, we might be able to get people to do that. I think that'd be fun to just like really dive deep into West Coast and style, something that you and me really love, man, and like it's not super common and maybe people don't know as much about, and we can get a little deep on that shit. That'd be fun.
Yeah, man, I'd be down for that for sure.
Okay, let's talk about that. I do have to run to take a piss, so do you want to? I'll be like 30 to 60 seconds at most. Do you want to? I don't know. I know we didn't sort of go in super detail, but do you want to just sort of maybe like talk about some other fresh hop beers, and maybe, or even just a little like, I don't know if you want to go into more about the fresh hop, or I don't know if there's a difference between fresh and wet hop as far as the process too.
Yeah, sure. I can find some way to yap about.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I won't be long.
to answer that last question, to the best of my knowledge, I believe fresh hop and wet hop are generally meant to be the same thing. I think when if you see wet hop and fresh hop, it's like that's the same thing. What it means either way is you're having whole cone hops that are freshly picked. So that's that's the case there. For other ones that I'm really missing, one that Sawdust put out a few years in a row that they've done a few different versions of was Harvest of Eden. The most recent one that they did of that, which I think was in 2020, was actually like kind of a combo style because it was a wet hop Märzen, and that was just spectacular. Because combining the aspects of a Märzen and everything that makes that great that we just talked about with the last one, but you add a wet hop element to it, it was just next level. And I've been bugging them about that the last two falls. They did put out a great Festbier this year, but I was really itching for them to release Harvest of Eden again, especially that most recent wet hop Märzen version. Yeah, that made me sad that hasn't come back around. I'm going to keep bugging them about that because I really want that beer to come back, maybe next fall. Yeah, it's a weird thing that I feel like there was a time when everyone was doing wet hop beers, because I mentioned a couple of local ones. Beyond the Pale did one called Drink Me Now, because with it being fresh hop, it's they're one of those ones that's better if it's drank fresh. Before and Dominion City appropriately had one called Winding Down the Bines, which they only did once. Yeah, unfortunately that one didn't come back. Were you able to hear me as you had gone there?
No, unfortunately not, just because it's on a different floor now. So
okay. Mostly, I was mostly spending the time lamenting Sawdust City's Harvest of Eden from 2020, which was a wet hop Märzen. And that was that year was the fall beer of the year for me. Harvest of Eden wet hop Märzen, it was just spectacular.
Fuck, that's I remember that. A wet hop Märzen is fascinating. So, do you have any theories then? I just said what you were saying about Dominion and Beyond the Pale. Do you why aren't breweries bringing these back? Do you think it's too expensive, too much effort, and not enough interest?
It might be a combination of that. I honestly don't know. I could see it being not enough interest because
it's pretty unique, right? Niche.
Yeah, and I don't know anyone who's as wild about them as I am. It might it might just not be a big seller. I could certainly see that.
I get it for sure. I would sort of think that maybe the problem is it's probably the actual logistical challenge of getting the volume of fresh hops close to as close to being picked as possible to the brewery, which means it can't be from Yakima. It has to be local. This is from Meaford, Ontario, and if I'm not mistaken, unless I'm confused, I think Meaford's not Prince Edward County. Maybe that's somewhere else.
No, it's not. It's not Prince Edward County. I can't really think of the direction that it's in. I've even been there before, although that's been like I'm going back to high school years at the like at this point. But
it's up near Collingwood.
Right. There you go.
Okay, which is the tip of
It's a
Tobermory.
couple of hours drive.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 to 3 hours from where I'm at here in Hamilton. From Toronto as well. Yes, exactly right. So, they've picked them, they've driven them straight to the brewery in Toronto, and they've got them in the tanks. That is pretty sick, and it's a challenge for the brewery, for the hop farm. A lot of work, but Bellwoods, would you say that Bellwoods have been the most consistent with doing this every year?
I would say so, yes, for sure.
I was looking on Untapped before, just looking for this one, and I was, I can see it. There's so many. Oh, okay. So for Bellwoods, looking at Bine, oh gosh, they did it in 2015 with Centennial.
Mm-hmm.
They did a Cascade version that year too. 2016, Chinook and Cascade.
There you go.
2017, I don't see that here. 2018, maybe they skipped a year. 2018, they did Comet. 2019, they did Cascade and Chinook again. 2020, Cascade and Columbus. 2021, Citra Mosaic. And then this year is 2022. So I had 2021, 2019. I missed 2020. Do you know why? Because I probably thought it was going to be the same shit and not realizing that it's a different beer every year. Because technically it's a different crop and they're using different hops, and looks like the Citra Mosaic wet hop, which is pretty fucking fire. Centennial makes this more of a West Coaster. I'm sure if they had like a wet hop Citra Mosaic, they could probably make a New England to make that interesting. That could be kind of cool.
Although I don't know about that, because then you'd kind of have to be combining wet hop and dry hop.
Can you dry hop with wet hops?
Well, I don't think so, because I think dry hops have to be pellets. I don't know. I don't know that you could dry hop
whole cone. Dry hop. Good point. Great question, though. So then, are all fresh and wet hop beers West Coast typically?
I would think so.
Okay. I also love, and there was the other question for you. I know, once again, I know I'm asking you like you fucking made it, but so is there a reason that it's a pale ale and not? Has it been? I guess I can look here. Has it been something else? Because I feel like pale ale. Oh look! Okay, look at this. 2021 was. Look at that. It was hazy as fuck, and it was 7% for Bine Hunter. And this year is 5%, and it's a clear as day West Coast. So they've changed it up. Then. Okay.
I don't fucking know then, man.
But dude, this is fascinating. I'm just looking at here. Then I'm checking 2019, the last one I had after that. That one is billed as pale ale, and it was also 5%. And looking at some pictures here, it kind of looks... Here, let me find a better one. That kind of... Here we go. That's a good one. That looks pretty hazy. That looks pretty fucking hazy.
That does.
So it's like this year, they've decided to lean into the... Which shows, bro, that this style can work with anything. Like, it doesn't have to be West Coast.
Evidently.
We were just talking about the Brewski Sticky. That is the most West Coast beer with the hops that they use, and they use straight West Coast hops in the most creamiest New England IPA that I'd had. So I really, I got a lot of respect, and I'm very much into East meets West, whether it's East in the body meets West hops or whatever that might be, or if it's like a West Coast body with crazy dry hop like a New England. That's fucking sick to me, man. Like, that's so cool. I'm trying to check some of the other ones, but it's not actually, for some reason, it's just straight not loading. I don't know why. Well, maybe Untapped's having the shit. But anyway, that's interesting. So fresh up, wet up can be anything, and I kind of do have this memory of Bine Hunter being a hazy a beer when I had it, because it would be almost weird for Bellwoods at the time to do a. They weren't really doing West Coasts, I guess. Like even Witch Shark converted from West Coast to a big multi West Coast to a haze bomb. So
yeah, go figure.
Fascinating. So in the interest of we hit 2 hours, do you want to just pop the last one open so we can just wrap him up?
We should do that.
So this last beer was courtesy of Nate. Thank you for this, my G. This is something very different as far as we're moving back into the pumpkin realm, so I'll say that. This is something from Quebec, so the first 4 were from Ontario, this one's from Quebec, and I have had this beer before. It's very interesting. It's completely different to any of the other styles that we've had tonight. Nathaniel, do you want to tell them about this one?
Yes. So, this is from 4 Origins in Montreal, and it is a chai latte pumpkin ale. So it's a pumpkin ale brewed with spices, chai tea, and oats. So this is a brand new pumpkin ale that they brewed this year alongside Nightmare, the pumpkin porter that we already mentioned that they brew every year.
So did they not do this one last year? I swear I had. No, I haven't had this. What the fuck?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure this is a brand new one.
Yo, I really thought this. I swear they did something like this last year. Did they not do something else? Am I thinking of the wrong thing? Because I'm like, this is tripping me out. This almost feels like a Berenstein Bears moment, where I'm like, I am positive. You know what I'm talking about? The Mandela effect thing, where you think something happened and like a collective, you're like, no, this is what it was, and in real life, it's like, no, that doesn't exist.
Yeah. No, I am not 100% sure that they haven't done this one before, but I'm 90% certain.
Well, I think you might be right, because I am pretty aggressive with my Untapped game, and I cannot see this here anywhere. I haven't tagged it, and it's only got 15 check-ins.
Okay, so it's got to be new then.
So I swear they did a similar-ish version of some sort of pumpkin beer last year. Because I remember we did a pod, because I just remember Keegan coming by and dropping some stuff off, and this was one of them, and I thought it was this one. But a pumpkin spice chai latte, and the base... Fuck it, let's just crack this shit and see what the base is, because I actually don't know that.
Let's get into it.
Have you had this yet?
I've not had this yet, no.
Oh, cool. All right.
Okay, hang on. I gotta look at the ingredients first. So water, malted barley, malted oats, oat flakes, pumpkin puree, lactose, masala chai black tea, spices, hops, and yeast. Okay, so keeping with chai latte, it is lactose.
Okay. Fuck, it's interesting. All right, let's see if I can do the old. I was trying to do this like cool photo. It's really hard with one hand to try and do it like with that in the background.
This glass. Weird.
Huh? Oh, come up. Nope, it's not gonna happen. I need like 2 or 3 more hands. It's a really nice looking. What's the Pumpkin Fest from?
So that's from Quatre Origines. That's their that's from a a beer event that they did the year that I did the pumpkin blog.
Did you go there to get it, or they sent it to you?
Well, when I went to pick up the 2 pumpkin beers that they had that year, they gave me that glass as well, because it was a glass from that year.
That is spectacular. I feel like kind of that makes you the pumpkin goat.
Are you saying that kind of makes me the pumpkin?
I kind of think that does. I've got the
I,
regular.
like
Thank you.
that was
But you beat me.
that was absolutely awful, but I had to do it.
You had to because it's a dad joke, and you are a father. Okay.
That's right.
Oh, perfect timing for my camera to die.
Oh, there you go.
It's Oh, look,
Yeah,
I'm frozen on the screen. Hey, look at
Yeah,
that.
we got the freeze frame of you doing your face.
That is fucking hilarious. That's even funnier, actually.
Yeah, that was a pretty great moment, actually.
This used to not work, but for some reason I started trying it recently, and it just started working again. So, like, as in changing the battery in the camera, it used to just not do anything. And now it like kicks back in. Look at that. That's efficient. Oh, hang on, wait.
Yeah, there we go.
Look at that. Look at that. Wait,
are.
get that bit right. Let's go across here. There you go. Get that fucking right there, mate. Bloody ripper. Oh, no, it's a little bit too much. Let's go here. Just a little. Balance it out. There we go. So.
All right, cool your jets there, Chief.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, Nate. It's 5 fucking beers, bro. Relax, man. I'm trying my best. First of all, get some pumpkin in you.
Yeah, get a pumpkin up you.
Fascinating. So, this is 5.5%. So this is like, it's completely even different than the rest. Now, once again, it's a chai latte. So it's, do you know what they've done? Because they don't like lactose, so they didn't use lactose. Of course not.
No, they did. They
did?
Yes.
Sugars, lactose, motherfucker. So cheeky. Mike hates lactose. He always shits on it. So it always makes me really happy when I see him resort to using lactose. Not that I care anymore, but just for history's sake, you got to, right?
Yep, that's right.
What do you think the base is then? Because it's not really saying. It's very unique.
Yeah, I couldn't really say. Like, I feel like this is another one that kind of defies style definition.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like it's kind of, again, a nondescript ale with a bunch of with a bunch of adjunct.
Yeah. No, you're right. Like, it's super creamy, not overly sweet, but there's definitely some sweetness there. The cloves are pretty strong on the nose.
Yep.
It's interesting.
So, yeah, it's definitely got like some creaminess from the lactose for sure. Do you find that the spices are getting a bit washed out a bit on the palate?
Yeah. It's almost like the sweetness is washing out the spices.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time to know what to make of this because it's such a different beer.
It is.
It's like sticky and sweet, which is, the spices are a little diluted because of that.
Yep.
Usually with a chai latte, I've had a bunch of chai before. Some great stuff. It's a very unique drink. To mix that with pumpkin and then put that in beer form is a pretty large challenge, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got pumpkin puree in it, which is great. I don't think I'm getting any pumpkin. I mean, it doesn't really taste like anything, right? Like,
yeah. That's another thing with with pumpkin beers is that I don't know if I can think of any beers that just have pumpkin alone without the spices, because there's not a whole lot of flavor there to actually stand on its own.
yeah.
Like, there are quite a few adjuncts in this, and I kind of feel like they're kind of piling on top of each other a little bit, and I feel like the lactose is kind of washing them out a little bit.
Yeah, the sweetness, like, it didn't need much sweetness to make this work. To the point where, like, because chai, it's a bit of a more kind of subtle flavor, And like even when you have chai tea, like a friend in Australia used to always make it, and they used to have vanilla soy milk with the chai mix, and I think maybe you put like a touch of sugar in there,
Mm-hmm.
or there was something to sweeten up. Like it had to be subtle, or it would be too much. And I just remember it
Yeah.
being really nice and creamy. You had to just boil it all up, boil the milk up with the spices. You just pour the spices in, and you like strain it out. Um, I remember loving it, like really enjoying it. Like they made it, and I went and bought all the same stuff and started making it. Really, really enjoyed it as a nice little drink. It was pretty easy to make, like a nice little warm thing. Definitely a tougher. This is a pretty unique beer. I would say probably the most unique of the beers that we've had tonight.
Absolutely. It's an ambitious one because it's kind of going in a bit more of a creative direction with it. I see what they were going for
Yeah,
with kind of the typical spices and like and going with a chai combo there. What I almost wonder is if this might have worked better if they were to do a stout or a porter with a bit more of a richer malt base to make it smooth and kind of cut the lactose, and if it would have and if the spices would have been able to stand out a little bit more with that as a background.
couldn't
That's
agree
kind
more.
of my upfront feeling on this.
I almost feel like that blanket statement could apply to almost any pumpkin beer. I think they're superior at a porter or a stout, even if it's just a regular 5% porter or an oatmeal stout base.
Mm,
I think it just works better. Like you said, it's a better canvas for the spices to play with. That chocolate gives it more grounding, and the chocolate absorbs the sweetness more because milk stouts have been around for 100 plus years, and everyone knows how they go. When you mentioned something before, and I think this kind of applies to it, like the golden stout thing.
yeah,
That can apply to this. And I've never been a golden stout fan or a white stout fan
nor have I.
personally.
Nor have I.
Um, no beef with them at all because it's team innovation, but it's just not my thing. I've got a 10% one from Mortalis in the fridge still. I've had it for a while and I just can't bring myself to drink it because I'm just not interested in a white stout. Like I'm just not. I'm sure it's fire
Yep.
because it's Mortalis, but I'm just not into it. But I think this would have been superior if it was kept the same ABV and made a porter or an oatmeal stout. And I think it would have been fucking. I think the spices would have had something to cling on to. Maybe is kind of what you were saying earlier. Yeah.
Yep. So you heard it here first from Team Lactose that the lactose doesn't really work in this beer. Go figure.
All right, but at the same token, I don't want to discourage Mike specifically
No.
from
Yeah.
this because
No,
I
no,
feel
I was
like
gonna,
yeah.
I was gonna, I was gonna go there. I was gonna go there next. Like, no disrespect to Quatre Origines at all, because, because they really are kind of very strongly Team Pumpkin and in a very good way. I
Yeah.
respect the fact that that like they're a craft brewery in Quebec, like really probably like one of the only independent craft breweries in Quebec that put out pumpkin beers every year, and like even to the point of doing
A
a pumpkin
pumpkin
fest
fest.
like a couple of years back, and really Nightmare, the pumpkin porter is it's exceptional. It's one of my favorite pumpkin beers, and that's
100%.
one that they do that they do every year, and it is just excellent. Like
It
that
truly is,
is
man.
a very dependable and a really well made pumpkin beer. So don't want anyone to get the wrong idea.
Not at all.
Love Quatre Origines, and that is probably one of my favorite beers that they make. So
Like of year round, like that's by far like they do some great stuff, but I think Nightmare is something special. I more than anything respect the swing. I feel like all breweries need to take a swing at some stuff. I think this will be
for sure.
for us. We are very discerning pumpkin beer enthusiasts, Nathaniel and I are. I think a lot of people will fucking love this beer. I think
Oh,
because we've
for sure.
had a bunch of pumpkin beers. We've been drinking beer for a while. we have started to have and this has been good. This conversation, this podcast has brought it out that I think we both prefer pumpkin beers that are darker bases, that have a porter stout or something similar, darker base. The blonde ones are cool, but I think it starts to move into that white stout territory where if you like that kind of thing, because it's sort of like that creamy, a lot of white stouts do have lactose, they have coffee, they have chocolate in it, but there's this base that's blonde, and it doesn't scratch an itch for me. It doesn't really do much. I've never had one where I'm like, I need to come back to that. I would just rather the OG.
Yeah. Noah has a good way of describing it, which as soon as I heard him describe it, I can't I can't help but taste this. Like it's, for some reason, the combo of coffee and lactose with a blonde ale base tends to come out ashy, and like as soon as I heard him describe it, I'm like, yes, that's it. Like that's what I don't like about white stouts is that it has like for some reason that combination comes out with an ashy feel to it, and it's a bit like there's something that just doesn't quite mix right for me.
That's a great point. Next time I try one, I'll look out for that. And that sounds, from the last time I had one, I can see that. It's almost like there's nowhere for the spices to go, and for the coffee, like there's only room for the bitterness. So it's kind of like this bitterness, but the bitterness doesn't have. It's almost like a herbal, smoky, gross kind of bitterness that just doesn't really have anywhere to go because the base doesn't give it anywhere to sit and land and kind of blend in with. It's like sitting above the base is the blonde, and then all these other things are sitting on top of it, where it should be this melange, and it's just not.
It's missing something.
Yeah, and look, once again, this personal taste for us, and it, I guess it shows. I don't want everyone to think that whatever we drink on here, we're just jerking it all off. Like, we chose these beers. Nobody sent these things to us. We wanted to drink all these beers, and I thought I'd had this beer. I thought this was the one they did last year because they did Nightmare and another pumpkin beer, and I thought this was it, but clearly not because I hadn't checked into it. But yeah, man, I liked at least. I feel like even with this though, even if maybe it's not our favorite, I think it really showcased a fantastic variety of what fall beers could be, from
absolutely
standard pumpkin to innovative pumpkin beers that are like molded after other beverages, like a chai latte with pumpkin is phenomenal, to wet hop, to a Märzen, to a Festbier. They're all very different. I think this is a super eclectic combination of products for this pub, man, that I hope that we gave y'all a bit of an idea of what fall beers can be like. And this episode's coming out in 3 or 4 days from recording, so it's super fresh, just like the beers, and there's still plenty of time to be able to grab all of these beers. I imagine Bine Hunter's probably gone though, yeah?
Probably at this point. I would think it came out early September, so it's probably gone now.
That's probably gone. The Märzen...
I can't...
That is fair.
I can't... The Märzen is gone. I know that much. GLB Pumpkin, I think, is probably still in some LCBOs. I can tell you with certainty that Victory Parade is still available at Tooth and Nail, so I would definitely recommend grabbing that.
Yes, and some of the other ones, at certain, whether it's direct through Badlands or through some of your favorite independent bottle shops here in Ontario, you'll be able to get the Badlands Oktoberfest beer, which we did not talk about here, but I have that upstairs and I'm excited to try it. The other one was the Willowboard Oktoberfest and the smoked version. Duran had both of those. I think they're pretty new release, so they should be at some, whether it's Willowboard directly or through some of their retailers. There might be some other ones. I know that Third Moon just did their Halloween drop, so there might be some other sort of. I don't know if they're pumpkin pie bestowed. Probably, I imagine those would go pretty quick though. To be fair, for Origins, if you're in Quebec, might still have some Nightmare, and the Chai Latte might still be kicking around. They have a really big distro network now because they got their second brewery as well. So I think they're really focusing on distro. So even if you're not anywhere near either of the breweries in Quebec, you might be able to find it at an IGA or a specialty beer store or something like that, which is very cool. Yeah, I hope that this at least gave you guys a bit of a picture of what, once again, what fall beers can be like. And This is just some of the ones that we were able to come up to make sure that we both had the beer. So obviously we missed a fuck ton, and we just gave you just like a little skim of the top of what this could be like. But yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. I love it.
Absolutely.
I think the West Coast, we've got a lot more content coming up. Obviously, with Nate and I, we've been planning a whole bunch of different pods that we're going to be doing collab now that, Nate is in the groove of fatherhood and I am in the groove of house ownership and puppy fatherhood. We're back in business, so Nate and I are going to be doing a lot, so expect to see a lot more of us. I definitely want to do that West Coast one. I think that could be fun, whether that's this year or next year, but let's suss it out and see if we can time it up.
I'm down.
I'm
down. Let's fucking do it.
Even if it's this year, bro. Like I said, I'm sort of haven't gone as nuts with planning stuff. I got a bunch of things coming, but it's not like sometimes I'll have like 2 months of like every single week is just boom, 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 boom. I haven't really got to that yet. I'm just sort of like slowly soaking it up so we have some space. If anyone has any thoughts or any, if there's any episodes even that you'd like to see Nate and I do, where it's like we focus on a topic, let us know. I'd be very curious. Shoot us a DM or comment somewhere or let us know. I feel like could be kind of fun if there's anything that's, why don't you guys do something just on this? I'm like, we're pretty open and,
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like we could, the idea of doing this one and doing something on West Coast, maybe we'll just keep doing specific stuff. And obviously we've got our top 10 coming in January for Ontario for 2022. But still 2 full months. And what is it? It's the 29th right now because it's after midnight. So it's basically 2 months and 2 days of fire beer in Ontario coming out that, we're waiting for. We'll see what's happening.
That's right.
I'm amped. Let's do the thumbnail and then we'll wrap this bad boy up.
Yes, indeed.
Whichever ones you grab, I'll see if I can grab the other ones. Unless you do a two-hander, because if you two-hand it, you could probably.
All right. So I'll grab the Märzen and Bine Hunter, and I'll hold my Quatre Origines Pumpkin
Perfect.
Fest glass.
Let's see if I can hold these 3. Yeah, I can do it. God damn it! It's going to be a little awkward, but we're going to get the point. Here we go.
Oh, there you go. No, you
How's
had
that?
it there. That's perfect. Hold right there.
Perfect. Ready? Glorious. Let me just make sure that's good. Yep, love it. Nathaniel, where can everyone find your beautiful face online?
All right. So everywhere it's at NathanDoesBeer. The blogs are at NathanDoesBeer.com. There haven't been much blogs this year because I've been too busy being a dad. But I'm hoping to get that rolling again at some point. But for now, I'm like the time that I am able to put into this, I'm prioritizing the pods. So this is where I am. Nathan Does Beer everywhere else, and occasionally co-hosting BAOS podcast.
Yes, a lot more to come. I'm definitely preferring that too. I think that there's a lot of value in what the pods that we're doing together. These are ones that I probably wouldn't have gone out of my way to put together if it wasn't for you and I. So I think what the pods we're doing are uniquely like a collaborative process. I'm grateful for them. I think they're a lot of fun. I think people enjoy them, and we're both making friends in the industry because they're always new people that we both don't know. So it's very, very cool. So I appreciate you, my bro. Thank you again for making this one happen. Obviously, stick around. We'll wrap it up off air. Guys, if you enjoyed the episode, you know what to do. Smash the flipping thumbs up. Hit subscribe below and hit the notification bell, Nathaniel.
Ding.
So you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast. Check out the long form audio. We go live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Go live. Well, we drop the episodes, video and audio. Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. Chuck us a 5-star review if you're so inclined. That would be very helpful. The other thing I was going to say was Link Up. Link Up is kicking off their Series 4 this week. So the week that this is coming out, Link Up Series 4 will have been... Do you know what? The first one drops the next day, so I'm still not going to say what it is. We've got 6 weeks of fantastic drops. 4 breweries from Ontario, 1 from Quebec, and 1 from the States. So I'm not going to give anything away yet. Super exciting. Lots of fun stuff coming, so keep an eye out for that. We're going to be starting dropping those pods this month alongside our regular scheduled pods. Until then, guys, we'll see you next week. Get it in ya.
Cheers.